The moment Daniel Hayes saw Isabella Vaughn's perfectly applied mascara streak down her cheeks in the empty conference room, he knew two things. First, that the untouchable billionaire CEO everyone whispered about was human after all. Second, that walking toward her instead of away would change absolutely everything. Nobody helps people like Isabella Vaughn. Nobody dares. But Daniel had never been good at following the rules everyone else lived by. If you want to see how one quiet act of kindness between two broken strangers rewrites the rules of power, success, and what it really means to be strong, stay with me until the end. And hey, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The Marriott conference room smelled like overpriced wine and the kind of awkward small talk that corporate dinners breed like bacteria. Daniel Hayes sat near the back, fork pushing around what the menu had optimistically called pan-seared salmon with citrus reduction, but tasted more like something that had been frozen, thawed, and given up on life. Around him, laughter erupted in clusters. Brad from accounting, who everyone called Bradford when the bosses were around, was 3 drinks deep and telling the same story about his fantasy football league that nobody cared about the first time. Jennifer from HR kept checking her phone under the table, her smile plastered on like old wallpaper. Daniel didn't mind the isolation. 32 years old, a single dad to a 7-year-old daughter who thought bedtime was a suggestion, he'd learned to find peace in corners. Invisible suited him fine. Easier that way. The keynote speaker had finished 20 minutes ago. Some motivational type with teeth too white and a TED Talk Daniel had already forgotten. Now the evening was winding down into that strange purgatory where people lingered not because they wanted to, but because leaving first felt like admitting something. "You sticking around for the after party?" Marcus from IT leaned over, breath sharp with bourbon. Daniel shook his head. "Gotta get back. Babysitter's only good until 10. "Man, you're always running off." Marcus clapped his shoulder too hard. "Live a little. Live a little." As if Daniel's life wasn't full enough, full of parent-teacher conferences and grocery shopping and trying to explain fractions to a kid who'd rather be watching YouTube. As if living meant getting drunk with coworkers he barely knew and pretending to care about their vacation plans. He watched Marcus weave back toward the bar, already scanning for his next conversation victim. The room was thinning now. Servers moved between tables with the efficient grace of people counting down to clock out. Daniel stood, reaching for his jacket draped over the chair back, when something caught his eye. Movement. Wrong movement. Across the room, past the abandoned podium and the wilting centerpieces, someone sat alone at a corner table. The posture was all wrong. Shoulders curved inward, head bowed like prayer. Or defeat. Daniel almost looked away. Almost. Then she lifted her head, and even from 30 feet away, even in the dim amber lighting, he recognized her. Isabella Vaughn. Everyone knew who Isabella Vaughn was, even if you'd never met her. 30 years old, CEO of Vaughn Industries, a company that had somehow turned sustainable packaging into a billion-dollar empire. Forbes had run a cover story 6 months back. He'd seen it in the grocery store checkout line. The new face of ethical capitalism, they'd called her. In the photo, she'd looked like she'd been carved from marble. Perfect posture, perfect suit, perfect smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd given the opening remarks tonight. 10 minutes of practiced eloquence about innovation and responsibility that Daniel had only half listened to while scrolling through photos Emma had sent him. His daughter, at her friend's house, face painted like a butterfly, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Now watching Isabella Vaughn sit alone in the corner, Daniel saw something the Forbes photographer had missed. She was falling apart. Her shoulders shook, just slightly, like she was trying to hide it even from herself. One hand pressed against her mouth. The other gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles had gone bloodless white. Nobody else noticed. Or maybe they noticed and decided not to see. There was a difference. Bradford was doing shots near the bar. Jennifer had finally escaped to the lobby, phone pressed to her ear. The servers had that practiced blindness service workers develop, seeing only what they're paid to see. Daniel's jacket was in his hands. The door was 20 feet away. Emma was waiting. The babysitter charged extra past 10:30. He looked at Isabella Vaughn again. She'd turned away now, facing the window that looked out over the city. Their city, sprawling and indifferent below, all light and noise and people who didn't care. Her reflection in the glass showed what she was hiding from the room. Tears cutting clean tracks through foundation that probably cost more than Daniel's car payment. Not my problem, the sensible part of his brain whispered. Not your business. She's a billionaire CEO. She has people for this. She doesn't need you. But the other part, the part that woke up 3 times a night when Emma had bad dreams, the part that always stopped when someone dropped their groceries in the parking lot, the part his ex-wife had called too soft for your own good right before she'd left, that part was already moving. Daniel set his jacket back down. He didn't let himself think about it. Thinking meant hesitating, and hesitating meant walking away, and somehow walking away felt impossible right now. His footsteps sounded too loud against the hotel carpet. Each step closer felt like crossing some invisible line he couldn't uncross. This was stupid. This was none of his business. This woman had security teams and assistants and probably a therapist on speed dial. What was he going to do exactly? But he kept walking. 10 feet away, he could see her shoulders still shaking. 5 feet, and he could hear it, small, muffled sounds that she was trying desperately to swallow. Miss Vaughn? His voice came out quieter than he'd meant, but she heard it. Her whole body went rigid. For a second, she didn't move, like maybe if she stayed perfectly still, he'd disappear. Then she turned. The transformation happened fast, almost too fast to track. The tears were still there, the mascara still ruined, but something slammed down behind her eyes, walls going up, defenses engaging. I'm fine. Her voice came out steady, practiced. The voice from the opening remarks. Just needed a moment. Okay, Daniel said. He didn't move. Isabella's jaw tightened. I appreciate your concern, but I'm perfectly... You're not fine, Daniel said. Not accusatory, just factual. The way he'd say it's raining or that light's red, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Or anger. Hard to tell. I don't... She stopped. Started again. I don't know you. Daniel Hayes. I work in operations at Brennan Logistics. We're one of your suppliers. 3rd tier, probably. Cardboard boxes, mostly. I don't remember you. No reason you should. I sort purchase orders and make sure shipments don't get lost. Not exactly executive-level stuff. He paused. You spoke for 10 minutes tonight about supply chain innovation. It was good. You almost convinced me that boxes could change the world. The corner of her mouth twitched. Might have been a smile trying to happen. Did I succeed? I'm still on the fence about the boxes. But you looked like you believed it, which counts for something. Isabella glanced down at her hands, still gripping the table, still white-knuckled. She released it slowly, fingers cramping as blood rushed back. What do you want? Nothing. Everyone wants something. I want to make sure you're okay, Daniel said. That's it. I told you. I'm fine. You told me that. Doesn't make it true. She looked at him properly then, really looked. Her eyes were gray, not the soft gray of clouds, but the hard gray of steel or stone. Red-rimmed now, makeup smudged, but still sharp, still assessing. People probably wilted under that gaze in boardrooms. Daniel just waited. Why do you care? Isabella asked finally. It was a fair question. Daniel didn't have a good answer. Because everyone else left, he said, and because you look like you're about 5 seconds from breaking something expensive. That's not... She stopped, laughed once, sharp and bitter. Maybe you're right. When's the last time you ate something? The question caught her off guard. What? Food. When's the last time you had actual food, not whatever rubber chicken they served tonight? Isabella blinked. This morning, I think. Coffee, mostly. Coffee's not food. Says who? Says everyone with basic nutritional knowledge. Another almost smile. Are you always this pushy with strangers? Only when they look like they're running on fumes and breaking down in hotel conference rooms. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the room had emptied further. One server remained, stacking chairs with pointed efficiency. The bartender was counting bottles, clearly hoping everyone would take the hint. I should go, Isabella said, but she didn't move. Where? Home. My driver's waiting. Okay. Daniel pulled his phone from his pocket, opened the Uber app. Where's home? You're not... She stopped, stared at him. You can't be serious. Your driver probably left an hour ago, right? Standard protocol. You were supposed to leave with everyone else, do the executive exit, handshakes, and business cards. But you didn't. You stayed. So either you called them back, or you're planning to call them now, or you're stuck. Isabella's silence was answer enough. So, Daniel continued, I can call you an Uber, or I can call you a cab, or I can handle myself. I know you can, but you don't have to. The words hung between them. Simple words. Small words. But something about them made Isabella's carefully constructed walls crack just a little wider. She looked away, back toward the window, back toward her reflection. I don't want to go home. Daniel heard what she didn't say. I can't face going home alone. Okay, he said again, because what else was there to say? I'm very drunk, Isabella said suddenly, in case that wasn't obvious. I noticed. I don't not usually like this. I believe you. You don't know me. No, Daniel agreed, but I know what trying too hard to hold it together looks like. And you're past trying. Isabella turned back to him. The tears had started again, silent now, just tracking down her face like they'd forgotten how to stop. She didn't bother wiping them away anymore. I lost my husband, she said. The words came out flat. No emotion, like she'd practiced saying them until they meant nothing. 6 months ago, she continued. Car accident, drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time. One of those things. She laughed again, that same bitter sound. Everyone keeps telling me it's one of those things. Like that helps. Like calling it random makes it hurt less. Daniel didn't say I'm sorry. Didn't say that's terrible, or I can't imagine. People had probably been saying those things to her for 6 months. The words had been worn smooth, meaningless. Instead he said, How long have you been holding this in? Isabella's breath caught. What? Tonight. This. He gestured vaguely at her tears, her ruined makeup, her shaking hands. How long have you been pushing it down? Since the funeral, Isabella whispered. Since everyone started watching to see when I'd break. Since the board started circling like sharks, waiting to see if the grieving widow could still run the company. Since I woke up one morning and realized I was more afraid of people seeing me cry than I was of forgetting what his voice sounded like. The server had given up on subtlety and was now outright staring at them. Daniel caught her eye, pulled a 20 from his wallet, set it on the nearest table. We're leaving. We don't have to, the server started. We do. Thanks for your patience. He turned back to Isabella. Come on. Where? Anywhere but here. You said you don't want to go home. Fine, but you can't stay here. For a moment, he thought she might argue. Might pull out her phone and call some assistant who'd materialize with a car and a schedule and a list of talking points for tomorrow's meeting. Might remember that she was Isabella Vaughn, billionaire CEO, and he was nobody, just some guy who pushed papers and worried about cardboard boxes. Instead, she stood up, wobbled slightly, caught herself on the table. Daniel moved without thinking, hand out to steady her elbow. She tensed at the touch, but didn't pull away. I'm fine, she said automatically. You keep saying that. Maybe if I say it enough times, it'll be true. Or maybe you could just admit you're not fine for 5 minutes and see what happens. Isabella looked at him again with those sharp gray eyes. Has anyone ever told you you're annoyingly perceptive? My daughter. Usually right before she admits I was right about bedtime. You have a daughter? 7 years old, currently being supervised by a babysitter who's probably let her stay up past 9 watching cartoons and eating cookies. Sounds like a good babysitter. She's the best, terrible with rules, excellent with kindness. Daniel guided Isabella toward the door. Kind of like someone else I just met. They made it to the elevator without incident. Isabella leaned against the wall, eyes closed. Under the fluorescent lights, she looked exhausted, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. I was supposed to give another speech tomorrow, she said. Board meeting, quarterly projections. Very important, very boring. Cancel it. I can't just cancel a board meeting. You're the CEO. Who's going to stop you? Myself, probably. She opened her eyes. I'm very good at stopping myself from doing things that might help. The elevator dinged. Lobby. Daniel steered her toward the exit, past the front desk where a clerk pretended not to notice the disheveled CEO being guided out by a stranger. Outside, the city hit them like a wave. Noise and light and the particular smell of downtown at night. Exhaust mixed with food, carts mixed with possibility. October air, crisp enough to almost hurt. Isabella shivered. She'd left her coat upstairs somewhere. Daniel shrugged off his jacket, cheap, off the rack, nothing like the designer suit she was wearing, and draped it over her shoulders. You don't have to. It's 40 degrees out. You're in a sleeveless dress. Basic math. Isabella pulled the jacket tighter. It swallowed her, too big in the shoulders, too long in the sleeves. She looked smaller somehow, more human. Thank you, she said quietly. Daniel was already opening the Uber app. Where to? I told you I don't want to go home. Okay, where do you want to go? Isabella was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city, at all those lights, all those windows, all those people living their lives behind glass and steel. I don't know. Coffee, Daniel suggested. There's a diner on 5th that's open late, makes terrible coffee, excellent pie. I don't eat pie. Today you do. The Uber arrived 7 minutes later, a Honda Civic that had seen better decades, driven by a guy who didn't ask questions when Daniel helped Isabella into the back seat. She slid across the worn upholstery, still clutching his jacket around her shoulders. Daniel climbed in beside her, leaving appropriate distance. Professional distance, stranger distance. 5th and Madison, he told the driver. They pulled into traffic. The city slid by outside the windows, all neon and noise. Radio played something low and forgettable. The driver hummed along, off-key. Isabella stared out the window. I used to love the city at night, she said. When I first moved here, before everything. Before the company got big. Before I became... She gestured vaguely at herself. This. I used to walk for hours, just walk and look at everything, and feel like anything was possible. What changed? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. She pressed her palm against the window. I built this whole life, this empire. Everyone tells me how impressive it is, how successful I am, how proud I should be. And I am. I am proud. But it's so loud, you know? It's all so loud and busy and full, and somehow I've never felt more alone. Daniel didn't respond. Didn't offer platitudes or solutions. Just listened. After Marcus died. Her voice cracked on his name. First time she'd said it. After he died, everyone kept asking if I needed anything. So many people, so many offers. Whatever you need, just ask. Like I was supposed to know. Like there was some handbook for this. And the thing is, I didn't need anything from them. I needed... She stopped, shook her head. I needed someone to see me. Not the CEO, not the widow, not the strong woman holding it together. Just me. The person who's scared and sad and so tired of being brave. The Uber turned onto 5th. The diner glowed ahead, neon sign proclaiming "Eat" in letters that had probably been bright once. We're here, the driver announced. Daniel paid, helped Isabella out of the car. She still wasn't steady, but she was steadier than before. Or maybe just better at hiding it. The diner was exactly what it advertised. Old, worn, honest. Red vinyl booths, checkered floor, a counter where 2 guys in construction gear nursed coffee and shared a basket of fries. Country music played low from a jukebox that probably still took quarters. The waitress, 60-ish, gray roots showing through bottle black hair, name tag reading Deb, barely looked up from her crossword puzzle. Sit anywhere, hun. Daniel guided Isabella to a corner booth far from the other customers. She slid in, his jacket still around her shoulders, and stared at the laminated menu like it was written in code. The pie's good, Daniel said, sliding in across from her. So's the coffee, if you like it strong enough to strip paint. I thought you said the coffee was terrible. Terrible and good aren't mutually exclusive, especially not here. Deb materialized with 2 cups and a pot that looked like it had survived several wars. Coffee? Please, Daniel said. 2 slices of the apple pie? Heated? Is there any other way? Deb smiled, revealing a gap in her molars. Smart man. She glanced at Isabella. You okay, sweetheart? You look like you've had a night. Isabella blinked, probably not used to being called sweetheart by waitresses. Yes, I'm okay. Thank you. Deb didn't look convinced, but she also didn't push. Pie coming right up. She shuffled off. Daniel poured coffee for both of them. Thick, dark, probably strong enough to wake the dead. Isabella wrapped both hands around the mug like she was trying to absorb the warmth. This is surreal. Good surreal or bad surreal? I don't know yet. Ask me after the pie. She took a sip, made a face. This is awful. Told you. Why do people drink this? Because sometimes you need something real instead of something good. Isabella considered that, took another sip. It's growing on me. Give it 5 minutes. You'll either love it or hate it. No in between. They sat in silence for a while. Not awkward silence, the other kind. The kind where words aren't necessary. Outside, the city kept moving. In here, time felt slower, thicker. Deb returned with pie, huge slices, ice cream melting into the crust, cinnamon smell rising like steam. Eat, she ordered, and left. Isabella picked up her fork, put it down, picked it up again. I haven't cried in front of anyone since the funeral. Okay. Everyone expects me to be strong, to keep it together, to be Isabella Vaughn, the CEO who turned tragedy into motivation. Her voice turned bitter. That's what the press release said. Channeling grief into purpose, like it was some kind of business strategy. Sounds exhausting. It is, but it's easier than the alternative. Which is? Admitting I'm drowning, that every morning I wake up and forget for half a second, and then I remember, and it's like losing him all over again. That I built this entire empire and I'd burn it all down just to have one more conversation with him. That I'm so angry at him for dying, at myself for surviving, at everyone who gets to be happy while I'm just... She stopped, breathed. I'm just trying to remember how to exist. Daniel cut into his pie. My wife left 3 years ago. Isabella looked up, startled. Different situation, he continued. Not death, just departure. Came home one day to a note on the kitchen counter. Said she couldn't do it anymore. The marriage, the kid, the life we'd built. Said she felt like she was suffocating, needed to find herself or some such thing. He took a bite. The pie was good. Haven't heard from her since. She signed away her parental rights, sent the papers through a lawyer. Clean break. That's horrible. Yeah, but also kind of honest in a terrible way. At least she didn't pretend, didn't try to do the slow fade, the gradual exit. Just ripped off the Band-Aid. He met Isabella's eyes. For a long time I was angry. Then I was sad. Then I just was. Emma, my daughter, she'd ask about her mom sometimes. Still does, and I never know what to say. How do you explain to a kid that sometimes people leave, that love doesn't always stay? What do you tell her? The truth, that her mom is dealing with her own stuff, and that has nothing to do with how amazing Emma is. That sometimes adults make choices that hurt, but that doesn't mean she's not loved. And I tell her that it's okay to be sad about it, that we don't have to be strong all the time. Isabella's eyes were wet again. You're a good father. I'm a trying father. Some days that's the same thing. Some days it isn't. He pushed the pie toward her. Eat, trust me. She did. Took a small bite, then a bigger one. Then she was eating like she'd just remembered what hunger felt like. Good? Daniel asked. Terrible, Isabella said. And good. You were right about the mutually exclusive thing. They ate in companionable silence. The construction workers left. A couple came in, sat at the counter, ordered pancakes at 10:30 at night like it was the most normal thing in the world. Deb refilled their coffee without asking. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Isabella said quietly. The company, the speeches, the board meetings. I go through the motions because that's what I'm supposed to do. Because if I stop, if I slow down for even a second, I might have to actually feel something. And I'm terrified that if I start feeling, I won't stop, that I'll just break. Maybe breaking's not the worst thing. Easy for you to say. Is it? Daniel leaned back. I spent 6 months after my wife left eating cereal for dinner and letting Emma watch TV until midnight because I couldn't face bedtime routines. I cried in my car in grocery store parking lots. I called in sick to work because I couldn't pretend to care about shipping manifests when my whole life had just imploded. I was a mess. Complete disaster. What changed? Emma asked me if I was sad because of her. His voice went quiet. She was 4 years old, and she asked if Mommy left because she'd been bad. And I realized that my breaking was breaking her, too. That I had to find a way to be okay, not for me, but for her. So I did. I got up, I made breakfast. I learned to braid hair through YouTube videos. I became the dad she needed, even when I had no idea what I was doing. That's different. You had a reason to get up, a purpose. And you don't? My purpose is a company. Numbers on spreadsheets, stock prices, and profit margins. Your purpose is what you decide it is, Daniel said. Maybe it's the company. Maybe it's something else. But punishing yourself for grieving isn't purpose. It's just punishment. Isabella was quiet for a long time. She'd finished her pie without noticing, fork scraping the plate. Why are you being so nice to me? Why wouldn't I be? Because you don't know me. Because I'm a stranger who fell apart at a corporate dinner. Because this isn't your problem. Does everything have to be transactional? In my experience? Yes. Then your experience is limited. Daniel finished his coffee. Here's what I know. You're a person who's hurting. I'm a person who noticed. That's it. That's the whole transaction. No favors owed, no debts incurred, just one human being helping another human being get through a rough night. People don't actually do that. Some people do. What do you want from this? Really? Daniel thought about it. I want to make sure you get home safe. I want you to eat something and drink water and maybe sleep. I want tomorrow to be slightly less terrible than today. That's it. Isabella stared at him like he was speaking another language. I don't understand you. You don't have to. Deb returned with the check, or rather she returned and set it face down on the table without a word, then disappeared again. Daniel reached for it. I can, Isabella started. I got it. I'm a billionaire. Good for you. I'm buying pie. She laughed, actually laughed. Not bitter, not broken, just laughing. You're insane. Probably. My daughter says the same thing when I make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Do they actually look like dinosaurs? Absolutely not. But she appreciates the effort. Daniel left cash on the table, probably too much, but Deb had been kind in the way that mattered. They slid out of the booth. Isabella swayed slightly, grabbed the table for balance. How drunk are you right now? Daniel asked. On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 6, was definitely an 8 earlier. Pie helps. Apparently, outside the October air had gotten colder. Isabella shivered despite Daniel's jacket. The city was quieter now. Not silent, never silent, but muted. Like someone had turned down the volume. I should really go home, Isabella said. Okay, where's home? She rattled off an address in the kind of neighborhood where doormen wore uniforms and probably judged you based on your shoes. 30 minutes away, at least. Daniel called another Uber. While they waited, Isabella leaned against the diner's brick wall, eyes closed. Thank you, she said. For what? For not leaving. For not treating me like, she opened her eyes. Like I'm breakable. Everyone's breakable. You're just usually better at hiding it. The Uber arrived, a slightly nicer car this time, driven by a woman who greeted them with a smile that didn't quite hide her exhaustion. Late shift, probably. Double shift, maybe. They climbed in. Daniel gave the address. The driver nodded, pulled into traffic. Isabella leaned her head against the window. I'm going to regret this tomorrow. Probably. I'm going to wake up and remember I cried in front of a stranger and ate pie at a greasy diner and admitted I'm falling apart. Yep. And I'm going to be mortified. Most likely. She turned to look at him. But right now, in this moment, I don't regret it. Good. They drove through the city, past buildings where people were still awake, still working, still living whatever lives people lived at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Past closed shops and open bars and corner stores where everything was slightly overpriced and nobody cared. Do you believe in signs? Isabella asked suddenly. Like what? Like cosmic signs. Messages from the universe or fate or whatever. Do you think things happen for a reason? Daniel considered. I think things happen. Sometimes there are reasons, sometimes there aren't. But I think we get to choose what meaning we make out of the random chaos. That's a non-answer. It's the only answer I've got. They turned onto her street. The buildings got nicer, taller, more glass and steel, less brick and character. The kind of neighborhood where everything looked expensive because it was. "Here," the driver announced, pulling up in front of a building that probably had more security than Fort Knox. Daniel started to get out to help Isabella, but she was already moving, slower than usual, but steady. She paused at the car door, looked back. "Will you?" She stopped, started again. "Will you make sure I get inside okay? I'm steadier than before, but I don't trust myself not to trip over my own feet." Of course. They crossed the sidewalk together. The doorman, older guy, kind eyes, opened the door without comment, though his expression suggested he'd seen plenty of wealthy tenants come home in various states over the years. "Ms. Vaughn," he greeted. "James." Isabella's voice had slipped back into CEO mode, professional and controlled, but her hand still shook slightly when she reached for her purse, fumbling for her keycard. Daniel waited while she found it, while she swiped it, while the elevator arrived with a soft ding that sounded too loud in the marble lobby. "I can take it from here," Isabella said. "You sure?" She nodded. Then, impulsively, she shrugged off his jacket and handed it back. "Thank you. For everything. For not walking away. For the terrible coffee and the good pie. For—" She paused. "For seeing me." Daniel took the jacket. "You going to be okay?" "I don't know, but I think maybe that's okay too, not knowing." "Call someone tomorrow," he said. "A friend, a therapist, someone. Don't just swallow this down and pretend tonight didn't happen." That sounds suspiciously like good advice. "I have my moments." The elevator doors started to close. Isabella caught them, held them open. "Daniel Hayes from Brennan Logistics, who worries about cardboard boxes." "Yeah? You're a good person." "I'm just a person." "Same thing sometimes." The doors closed. Daniel watched the numbers climb, 15, 16, 17, until they stopped at 23. Then he turned, nodded to James the doorman, and walked back out into the October night. The Uber was still waiting, driver patient behind the wheel. "Where to?" she asked. Daniel gave his address, climbed in, checked his phone. 3 texts from the babysitter, all variations of "Emma's fine, take your time." A photo of his daughter, fast asleep on the couch, butterfly face paint smudged but still visible. He smiled, texted back, "On my way. Thank you." The city slid by outside. Same lights, same noise, same indifferent chaos. But something felt different, shifted, like a door had opened somewhere and let in new air. Daniel didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if Isabella Vaughn would remember this night or choose to forget it. Didn't know if their paths would cross again, or if this was just one of those strange, singular moments that happen and then dissolve into memory. But he knew one thing. He'd done the right thing. Not the easy thing, not the expected thing, just the right thing. And sometimes that was enough. The Uber pulled up in front of his apartment building. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just home. Daniel paid, tipped extra because it was late and the driver had been kind, and climbed out into the familiar comfort of his own neighborhood. Inside, the babysitter was watching TV on low volume. Emma was indeed asleep on the couch, still in her butterfly makeup, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "How was she?" Daniel asked quietly. "Perfect, as always. We did face painting, watched 2 movies, ate probably too many cookies." "Sounds ideal." "How was your dinner?" Daniel thought about it. About Isabella Vaughn crying in an empty conference room. About terrible coffee and good pie. About all the ways people broke and the small mercies that helped them piece themselves back together. "Interesting," he said finally. "It was interesting." He paid the sitter, locked the door behind her, and carefully scooped Emma into his arms. She stirred slightly, mumbled something about butterflies, then settled against his shoulder. Daniel carried her to her room, tucked her in without washing off the face paint. She'd be annoyed tomorrow, but tonight felt too precious to disturb. He kissed her forehead, turned on her nightlight, and stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching her breathe. This was his life. Simple, small, full in ways that had nothing to do with money or power or success. Full in the ways that mattered. He thought about what Isabella had said, about building empires and feeling alone, about being so busy being strong that she'd forgotten how to just be. Daniel understood. Different circumstances, same loneliness, same fear of breaking, same exhaustion from holding everything together. But he'd learned something in the 3 years since his wife left. In the thousands of small moments of single fatherhood, strength wasn't about never breaking. It was about breaking and finding your way back, about asking for help, about accepting kindness from strangers and diners. He hoped Isabella would figure that out too. In his bedroom, Daniel changed out of his dress clothes, set his alarm for 6:30. Emma had soccer practice tomorrow, which meant early morning and coffee that was actually good, not diner coffee that stripped paint. He climbed into bed, closed his eyes. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text was short. I made it. Thank you again. IV. Daniel smiled, typed back. Glad you're safe. Remember what I said about calling someone. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I will. Good night, Daniel Hayes. Good night, Isabella Vaughn. He set the phone down. Outside, the city hummed its endless song, car horns and sirens, and the low rumble of trains somewhere in the distance. Inside, Emma slept peacefully, butterfly wings smudged across her cheeks. And somewhere across town, in a penthouse apartment that cost more than most people made in a lifetime, a billionaire CEO sat alone in the dark and cried. Not because she was falling apart, but because for the first time in 6 months, someone had seen her breaking and stayed anyway. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Board meetings and shipping manifests and soccer practice. Tomorrow would be complicated. But tonight, Daniel Hayes had done something simple. He'd helped someone who needed help. He'd offered kindness without expecting anything in return. He'd reminded one person that strength didn't mean suffering alone. And sometimes, that was everything. Daniel woke up at 6:15 to the sound of his alarm and Emma singing off-key in her bedroom. Something about butterflies and rainbows. Lyrics she was definitely making up as she went. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, letting the previous night settle into something that felt real instead of dreamlike. Isabella Vaughn, CEO, billionaire, broken, human. He grabbed his phone. No new messages. Part of him had expected something, a follow-up text maybe, or a retraction. Please disregard everything from last night. Professional lapse. Won't happen again. But there was nothing. Just the text from hours ago. I made it. Thank you again. Emma appeared in his doorway, still wearing yesterday's clothes, butterfly face paint, now a Jackson Pollock mess across her cheeks. Dad, I'm starving. Good morning to you too. Morning. Food? Daniel hauled himself out of bed. Pancakes? Dinosaur ones? Do they ever actually look like dinosaurs? Emma grinned, gap-toothed and perfect. Nope. But you try really hard, and that's funny. They made breakfast together. Emma's definition of helping mostly involved eating chocolate chips straight from the bag, while Daniel attempted to pour batter into vaguely reptilian shapes. The results were, as always, more abstract art than prehistoric creature. This one looks like a blob, Emma announced, poking her pancake with a fork. It's a brachiosaurus, long neck, see? I see a blob with a smaller blob attached. Close enough. They ate at the kitchen table, syrup everywhere, Emma chattering about her upcoming soccer game and how Madison from school said she couldn't play goalie, but she totally could, Dad. She was really good at catching things. Daniel listened with half his brain. The other half was still in that diner, watching Isabella Vaughn eat pie like she'd forgotten what food tasted like, still hearing her voice crack when she said her husband's name. Dad? He blinked. Yeah? You're being weird. Am I? You have your thinking face on, the one you get when you're worried about boring work stuff. It's not work stuff. Emma studied him with the unsettling perception 7-year-olds sometimes had. Is it mom stuff? No, baby. Not mom stuff. Good. Because mom stuff makes you sad, and I don't like when you're sad. Daniel reached across the table, squeezed her sticky hand. I'm not sad. You're something, though. Maybe just tired. It was a late night. Was the dinner boring? Parts of it. Other parts were interesting. Emma accepted this, returning her attention to drowning her blob dinosaur in syrup. Daniel's phone buzzed. He almost ignored it. Mornings were for Emma, not email, but something made him look. Unknown number. Different from last night's. Mr. Hayes, this is Rebecca Chen, assistant to Miss Isabella Vaughn. Miss Vaughn would like to thank you personally for your kindness last evening. Would you be available for coffee this afternoon? 2 p.m. at Greystone Cafe? Daniel stared at the message. Read it twice. Dad, you're doing the face again. He set the phone down. Sorry, just work. On Saturday? Apparently. After breakfast, they went to soccer practice. Emma ran around the field with the controlled chaos only 7-year-olds could manage, occasionally kicking the ball, mostly just enjoying the running. Daniel sat on the bleachers with the other parents, mostly moms, a few dads, everyone making polite small talk about school and whether the new math curriculum was actually helping or just confusing everyone. His phone sat in his pocket like a weight. He should respond. Should say yes or no. Should do something other than just stare at Emma pretending to be a goalie while the actual goalie watched in confusion. At halftime, he finally typed back, "Sure, 2 p.m. works." The response came immediately. "Excellent. Ms. Vaughn looks forward to it. Formal, professional." Nothing like the woman who'd cried in his jacket and admitted she was drowning. Daniel wondered which version would show up at the cafe. After practice, Emma wanted to stop at the park. They spent an hour on the swings, Emma demanding to be pushed higher, higher, while Daniel tried not to think about the afternoon, about what you were supposed to say to a billionaire who'd fallen apart in front of you 12 hours ago. "Dad, you're pushing weird." "Sorry." He focused, gave her a proper push. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Em." "You keep saying that, but you have the face." "What face?" "The worried face. The one where your eyebrows do the thing." Daniel consciously relaxed his eyebrows. "Better?" "Worse. Now you look like you're pretending." "When did you get so perceptive?" Emma dragged her feet, slowing the swing. "I pay attention." "That's what you always tell me to do, right? Pay attention to people. Notice when they're sad or scared or trying to hide something. I say that about strangers, so you stay safe. It works on dads, too." She jumped off the swing, landing in a heap and popping back up like nothing happened. "Can we get ice cream?" "It's 11 in the morning." "So?" "So ice cream is not a lunch food." "But it could be." "Nice try." They compromised on grilled cheese at home. Emma ate while watching cartoons. Daniel pretended to eat while checking his phone every 30 seconds like a teenager. No new messages. At 1:30, he called Mrs. Patterson from upstairs. Retired teacher, loved kids, charged reasonable rates, and always said yes. She arrived 20 minutes later with a bag of art supplies and a smile. "Hot date?" she asked while Emma dragged her toward the craft supplies. "Just coffee. Business thing." "On Saturday? Apparently everyone works weekends now." "Well, don't worry about this one. We'll be fine, won't we, Emma?" Emma was already elbow deep in markers. "Yep. Bye, Dad. Love you too," Daniel said to her back. Greystone Cafe was the kind of place that served $8 lattes and had succulents on every table. Daniel arrived 5 minutes early, feeling underdressed in jeans and a button-down he'd ironed twice. The other customers looked like they belonged here. Laptops open, designer bags on chair backs, conversations about startups and venture capital floating through the air. He ordered regular coffee, black, $2.50. The barista looked almost offended and sat at a corner table where he could see the door. Isabella arrived exactly at 2. Not a minute early, not a minute late. She wore dark jeans, a cream sweater, sunglasses she didn't take off until she was through the door. Her hair was pulled back, makeup subtle. She looked nothing like the woman from last night and everything like the Forbes cover. She saw him, hesitated for just a second, then walked over. "Daniel." "Ms. Vaughn." "Isabella, please." She sat, setting down a purse that probably cost more than his monthly rent. "Thank you for coming." "Thanks for the invitation." Awkward silence. She folded her hands on the table, unfolded them, reached for the menu, put it down without looking. "Should I order something?" she asked. "Probably. It's a cafe. They frown on loitering." The corner of her mouth twitched. "Fair point." She went to the counter, returned with some complicated drink involving oat milk and vanilla, sat back down, wrapped both hands around the cup like she had with the diner coffee. "So," she started. "So. Last night was—" She stopped, started again. I wanted to apologize. For what? For falling apart. For putting you in that position. It was unprofessional and inappropriate and human, Daniel interrupted. Isabella blinked. What? It was human. You were drunk and sad and grieving, nothing to apologize for. I'm a CEO. I have a reputation to maintain. Standards. Are those standards working for you? She stared at him. That's a loaded question. It's a simple one. Isabella took a long sip of her drink, set it down carefully. I spent 4 hours this morning on calls with my board, reassuring them that I'm fine, that last night's absence from the after-party was due to a migraine, not any actual problem. I lied to 12 people before breakfast, so to answer your question, no, the standards aren't working, but they're all I have. That's not true. Isn't it? You saw me at my worst, crying, drunk, completely unraveled. That's not who I'm supposed to be. Says who? Says everyone. The board, the press, the employees who look to me for leadership. Says the version of myself I've spent 10 years building. Daniel leaned back. Can I tell you something? I feel like you will regardless of my answer. Probably. Here it is. The version of you I met last night, the one falling apart, she was more real than whatever polish you're wearing now, and real beats perfect every single time. Isabella's jaw tightened. You don't understand. Then help me understand. She looked away toward the window. Outside, people walked by with shopping bags and dogs, and the casual ease of Saturday afternoon. Normal people doing normal things. When Marcus died, I had a choice. I could fall apart publicly, cancel meetings, take leave, let everyone see me break, or I could compartmentalize, lock the grief away, focus on work, be the strong leader everyone needed. I chose the latter. And it worked. The company didn't suffer. Stock prices stayed stable. We launched 2 new products. Everyone said how brave I was, how impressive. But you weren't actually dealing with any of it. No, I was just surviving, hour by hour, day by day. And then last night, after 6 months of surviving, something broke. I don't even know what triggered it. One minute I was fine, the next I was... She gestured vaguely. That's called being human. It happens. Not to people like me. Especially to people like you. Isabella finally looked at him. Why do you even care? You don't know me. I'm just some random person who had a breakdown at a corporate event. You're a person who needed help. I was there. It's not complicated. Everything's complicated. Only if you make it that way. She almost smiled. Almost. You're very frustrating, you know that? My daughter says the same thing. Smart kid. She has her moments. They sat quietly for a bit. Around them, the cafe hummed with weekend energy. Someone's laptop dinged. The espresso machine hissed. 2 women at the next table laughed about something involving a dating app disaster. I don't know how to do this, Isabella said finally. Do what? This. Being honest. Being vulnerable. I've spent so long being the person everyone needs me to be that I've forgotten who I actually am underneath it all. Then maybe it's time to figure that out. Easy for you to say. Nothing about the last 3 years has been easy for me. But I learned something. You can't run from grief. You can't outwork it, or ignore it, or pretend it doesn't exist. Trust me, I tried. All it does is wait, and eventually it catches up. He paused. Better to face it now on your own terms than to have it ambush you at random corporate dinners. Isabella laughed, sharp and sudden and maybe a little broken. Is that what happened? It ambushed me? Something like that? I hate that you're right. I get that a lot. She took another sip of her drink. I'm supposed to give a keynote speech next month. Innovation Summit, 5,000 people. They're paying me 6 figures to talk about resilience and leadership and turning challenges into opportunities. Can you do it? I don't know. I used to be so good at this. The speeches, the public face, all of it. But now every time I start writing, all I can think is how much of a fraud I am. How I'm standing on stage talking about resilience while falling apart backstage. How I'm selling this narrative of strength when I can barely get out of bed most mornings. So don't give the speech. Isabella blinked. What? Cancel it or change it. Tell the truth instead of the narrative. I can't just... That's not how this works. Why not? Because people don't want the truth. They want inspiration. They want the success story, the overcome adversity narrative. They want me to be the person who conquered grief, not the person still drowning in it. Maybe they need the drowning person more than the conquest story. Isabella stared at him. That's either profound or insane. I can't tell which. Could be both. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. My assistant, reminding me about a call in 20 minutes. On Saturday? Billionaires don't get weekends. Didn't you know? Sounds terrible. It is. She stood, gathering her purse, then hesitated. Daniel? Yeah? Last night you said something about how everyone wants something, but you just wanted to make sure I was okay. I remember. I'm still trying to figure out if I believe you. That's fair. I'm basically a stranger who bought you pie. The terrible good pie. Exactly. Isabella's phone buzzed again. She silenced it. I don't know how to do this, whatever this is. I don't make friends easily, I don't trust people, and I definitely don't usually fall apart in front of cardboard logistics managers. Operations coordinator. Different department. My mistake. She almost smiled again. But the point stands. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I asked Rebecca to set this up. She trailed off. You just needed to know last night was real, Daniel finished. That someone actually saw you, that you didn't imagine the whole thing. Something like that. It was real. All of it. Isabella nodded slowly. I should go. The call. Right, important billionaire stuff. Incredibly boring billionaire stuff, actually, but necessary. She moved toward the door, then turned back. Would you... She stopped. Tried again. Would you be willing to do this again? Coffee, I mean. Just talking, no agenda, no expectations, just this. Daniel considered, thought about Emma and soccer practice and the simple, predictable rhythm of his life. Thought about how inviting Isabella Vaughn into that rhythm would complicate everything. Yeah, he said, I'd be willing. Really? Really? Fair warning, though. I'm usually busy with single dad stuff. Soccer games, school projects, the occasional dinosaur pancake emergency. That sounds nice, actually. It's chaotic. Chaos sounds better than my current alternative. She left then, sunglasses back on, posture straightening as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Daniel watched her go, watched her transform back into Isabella Vaughn, CEO, untouchable and perfect. But he'd seen underneath now, seen the cracks. He finished his coffee, cheap and bitter and exactly what he'd needed. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, but he recognized it from this morning. Thank you for today, for not making it weird, for just being kind. IV. He typed back. Anytime, seriously. 3 dots, then, be careful what you offer. I might actually take you up on it. I meant it. Then I guess we'll talk soon. Guess so. Daniel pocketed his phone and headed home. Mrs. Patterson was teaching Emma how to make origami cranes when he walked in. The kitchen table was covered in paper, some attempts more successful than others. Dad, look, I made a bird. The bird looked more like a crumpled triangle, but Emma was beaming. That's amazing, Em. Mrs. Patterson says if you make 1,000 of them, you get a wish. Better get started then. Emma dove back into folding. Mrs. Patterson gathered her things, accepted payment, whispered, "Good coffee date?" on her way out. Just coffee and talking. Mm-hmm. Well, you look less worried than when you left, so that's something. After she left, Daniel helped Emma with her crane folding. They got through 12 more attempts before Emma got frustrated and declared origami too hard and boring, and could they play a game instead? They played 3 rounds of Go Fish. Emma won twice, possibly through cheating, definitely through luck. She demanded mac and cheese for dinner. They ate on the couch while watching a movie about talking cars that Daniel had seen approximately 50 times. Normal. Easy. His life. But underneath the normal, something had shifted. Like a door had opened and now he could see into a room he hadn't known existed. A room where billionaire CEOs cried over pie and admitted they were drowning. Where strength looked like asking for help instead of suffering alone. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel sat on his small balcony, barely big enough for a chair and a potted plant he kept forgetting to water, and looked out at the city. Same lights as last night, same noise, but different somehow. His phone buzzed. I canceled the keynote. Isabella's text came through with no preamble, no context, just that. Daniel smiled, typed back, "Good. How do you feel?" She, terrified, relieved, both. The events coordinator called me brave for being transparent about my mental health journey. I think she thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I am. Or maybe you're just being honest for the first time in 6 months. Same thing, possibly. Definitely not the same thing. Pause. Then, what are you doing right now? Sitting on my balcony, watching the city, avoiding the dishes. I'm in my living room, staring at my husband's guitar. He used to play before bed. Terrible at it, but enthusiastic. I haven't touched it since he died. It just sits there, gathering dust, reminding me. Daniel didn't know what to say to that, didn't have wisdom or platitudes that would help. So he just wrote, "That sounds really hard." It is. But tonight, I picked it up. Didn't play it, just held it. And I cried. Actually cried, not the controlled grief I allow myself in the shower. Just sat on the floor and cried. That's good. Grief needs space. Everyone keeps telling me that. I'm starting to think they might be right. They texted back and forth for another hour. Nothing deep, nothing profound. Just two people talking about their days, their lives, the small, ordinary moments that made up existence. Isabella told him about her assistant's obsession with color-coded spreadsheets. Daniel told her about Emma's origami disaster. It was easy, natural, like talking to an old friend instead of someone he'd met 24 hours ago. Finally, around 11, Isabella wrote, "I should sleep. Early meeting tomorrow. Never-ending cycle of corporate responsibility. Sleep well. You too." And Daniel? Yeah? Thank you for tonight, for yesterday, for not running away from the messy parts. Nobody should have to be messy alone. No, I suppose not. Good night. Good night, Isabella. Daniel set his phone down. The city hummed below, indifferent and eternal. Somewhere out there, a woman he barely knew was learning to grieve. Learning that strength wasn't about never breaking, but about finding your way back after you did. And somehow, without planning it or meaning to, Daniel had become part of that journey. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. Wasn't sure where this was going or what it meant, or if he was equipped to help someone as complicated as Isabella Vaughn. But he knew one thing. He wasn't going to walk away. The following week unfolded in a pattern that felt both strange and comfortable. Monday, a text from Isabella at lunch. Board meeting from hell. Remind me why I do this? Daniel responded between processing shipment orders. Because you're secretly a masochist? Her reply, that tracks. Tuesday, she sent a photo of her office view, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the financial district, everything glass and steel and cold. Sometimes I forget what the ground looks like. Daniel sent back a photo of Emma's soccer cleats, muddy and worn. Try this perspective. Wednesday, nothing. Daniel wondered if he'd overstepped, if the novelty of talking to a stranger had worn off. Then Thursday morning, his phone rang. Actual phone call. He almost didn't answer. Hello? I'm having a crisis. Isabella's voice sharp with stress. What kind of crisis? The kind where I have to attend a charity gala tomorrow night, and I remembered I hate galas, and everyone will expect me to be charming and put together, and I can't do the performance right now. Daniel was in the break room at work, surrounded by vending machines and the smell of burned coffee. So don't go. I'm the keynote donor. I can't just not show up. Sure you can. Send a representative, make a generous donation, write a heartfelt letter about previous commitments. I can't keep canceling things. People will think I'm unreliable. Or they'll think you're human with limits like everyone else. Silence on the line. Then, why do you always make everything sound so simple? Because it usually is. We just complicate it. I hate that you're probably right. You keep saying that because you keep being annoyingly right. A pause. What are you doing tomorrow night? Parent-teacher conference at 6. After that, probably helping Emma build a volcano for her science project. That sounds infinitely better than a gala. It's pretty great. Last time we made a volcano, It exploded all over the kitchen ceiling. Emma thought it was hilarious. Took me a week to clean it up. Isabella laughed. Real laughter, not the polite social kind. I miss that. Miss what? Things being fun. Simple. Just doing something because it's enjoyable, not because it's strategic or necessary or good for business. So do something fun. Like what? I don't know. What did you used to do before the empire, before all this? What made you happy? Long pause. I used to paint. Terribly. But I loved it. Had this tiny studio apartment, could barely afford rent, but I'd spend hours just making a mess with acrylics. Marcus used to joke that I was the world's worst artist with the best attitude. When's the last time you painted? Years? Maybe 5? 6? I got too busy. Sold the paints in a garage sale when we moved to the penthouse. Seemed childish. Seems like you threw away something that made you happy because you decided happiness was childish. Another pause. You're doing it again. Being annoyingly right? Exactly that. Daniel checked his watch. Break was almost over. Go to the gala or don't. But whatever you decide, make sure it's what you actually want, not what you think you should want. And if I don't know the difference anymore, then start figuring it out, one decision at a time. You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's possible. And sometimes that's enough. After he hung up, Marcus from IT, different Marcus, not from the dinner, poked his head in. You good, man? You've been on the phone for 20 minutes. Yeah, just a friend having a crisis. Must be some friend. Daniel thought about that. Were they friends? They'd met a week ago, known each other for barely more than a handful of conversations. But something about Isabella felt familiar, like recognizing yourself in someone else's struggle. Yeah, he said finally. I guess they are. Friday evening, Daniel survived the parent-teacher conference. Emma was doing great in reading, struggling with math, had a spirited personality, which was teacher code for talks too much. Then home for the volcano project, which went better than last time, mostly because Daniel had learned to use newspaper underneath. At 9 p.m., his phone buzzed. Photo message from Isabella. She was at the gala. He could see the ballroom behind her, all chandeliers and formal wear. But she'd clearly stepped outside onto a balcony, and she was smiling, actually smiling. I came, but I'm leaving early, and I bought art supplies on the way here. They're in my car. I'm going home to make a terrible mess and remember what it feels like to create something just because. Daniel grinned, sent back a photo of Emma's volcano, mid-eruption. To terrible messes and remembering what matters. Cheers to that. Saturday morning brought another surprise. A text from Isabella asking if he and Emma wanted to come to a park. Bring the kid, bring a soccer ball, just hang out. No agenda. Emma was suspicious. Who's Isabella? A friend. She's been having a hard time. Thought some fresh air might help. Is she nice? I think so. Does she like soccer? I have no idea. Well, she better, because I'm really good and people need to appreciate that. They met at Riverside Park. Big open fields, playground, the river sparkling in October sun. Isabella was already there, sitting on a bench, wearing jeans and a sweater and looking almost nervous. Emma ran ahead, soccer ball under her arm. Daniel followed at a normal human pace. You came, Isabella said. Said I would. I know. I just thought you might reconsider, bringing your daughter to meet a stranger from the internet. You're not from the internet. You're from a corporate dinner. Totally different category of stranger. Emma skidded to a stop in front of them. Are you Isabella? I am. You must be Emma. Yeah, do you play soccer? Not really, but I can learn. Emma considered this. Okay, Dad's terrible at it, so you'll probably be better than him anyway. Thanks, Em. You're welcome, come on! And just like that, Emma dragged Isabella onto the field. Daniel watched them go, his 7-year-old daughter bossing around a billionaire CEO, Isabella laughing as she missed the ball completely, Emma patiently explaining the proper kicking technique. It was surreal, and normal, and somehow exactly right. They played for an hour. Emma showed off her goalie skills. Isabella proved to be exactly as terrible at soccer as advertised. Daniel refereed and took photos on his phone. Emma, mid-kick, Isabella diving dramatically for a save and missing by 3 feet, both of them laughing. Afterwards, they got ice cream from a cart, sat on the grass. Emma chattered about school and her friends and how Madison still didn't think she could play goalie, but she was wrong, so wrong. Isabella listened like every word mattered, asked questions, laughed at Emma's jokes, acted like spending Saturday afternoon with a stranger's kid was the most normal thing in the world. Eventually, Emma spotted some kids from school and ran off to play. Daniel and Isabella sat in comfortable silence, watching her go. "She's wonderful," Isabella said. "She's a handful." "Same thing, usually." Isabella picked at the grass. "Thank you for this, for letting me crash your day." "You're not crashing. You're invited. Different thing." "Still, I know it's weird. I know this whole situation is weird." "Weird's not bad." "No, I suppose not." She was quiet for a moment. "I painted last night, after the gala. Stayed up until 3 in the morning just making a complete mess. It was terrible. Absolutely awful art. But I felt more like myself than I have in months." "That's good." "It was. And it made me realize how much I've lost. Not just Marcus, but pieces of myself. The parts that used to make me happy before I decided success was more important than joy." "You can find those parts again." "Can I? Or are they just gone? Casualties of ambition?" "Nothing's ever really gone. Just buried. You dig it up." Isabella smiled. "You're doing it again." "Can't help it. It's a compulsion." They watched Emma play, watched her laugh and run and be completely, unselfconsciously 7 years old. Watched her live without the weight of expectations or image or anything except right now. "I envy her," Isabella said softly. "That freedom, that lightness. You can have it too. Just takes practice." "I don't know if I remember how." "Then learn again. One day at a time, one soccer game, one painting, one moment of letting yourself just be." Isabella turned to look at him. "How did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's been through some stuff and came out the other side mostly intact." "Mostly?" "Nobody gets through life undamaged. The trick is deciding what to do with the damage." Emma was running back toward them, grass-stained and grinning. "Dad, can Isabella come for dinner? We're making spaghetti and it's going to be awesome." Daniel looked at Isabella. "No pressure. Emma's version of awesome usually involves way too much garlic and questionable food safety." "That sounds perfect," Isabella said. "If you don't mind." "Why would I mind?" "Because this is your life, your space, and you're just someone who needs some normal right now, and we've got normal in abundance, so yeah. Stay for dinner." Emma cheered. Isabella smiled, genuinely smiled, the kind that reached her eyes. And Daniel thought, maybe this is how healing happens. Not in grand gestures or dramatic moments, but in small kindnesses. In soccer games and terrible art and spaghetti with too much garlic. In letting someone see you're broken and having them stay anyway. They walked back to Daniel's apartment together, Emma chattering the whole way, Isabella listening and laughing and slowly, carefully, letting herself be part of something simple and good. And for the first time in a long time, the weight she'd been carrying felt a little bit lighter. The spaghetti was, as promised, loaded with enough garlic to ward off vampires for a decade. Emma had insisted on helping, which meant sauce splattered across the stove and noodles testing involved eating at least 6 strands. "To make sure they're ready, Dad." Isabella sat at the small kitchen table, watching the chaos with something like wonder. She'd offered to help twice. Both times, Daniel had gently redirected her to just sit and relax. "You're a guest. Guests don't work." "I don't think I've been an actual guest anywhere in years," she'd said. "Usually it's business dinners or networking events. This is different." "Different good or different weird?" "Haven't decided yet." Now, with plates of questionable pasta in front of them, and Emma explaining the complex social dynamics of 2nd grade, Isabella seemed to have landed on different good. She listened to Emma's story about how Tyler stole her favorite pencil, but then gave it back during recess with an apology note that just said, "sorry," in crayon. "Did you forgive him?" Isabella asked. Emma shrugged, twirling spaghetti around her fork. "I guess. He said sorry, and it was a really good apology note. He drew a heart and everything. Hearts are very sincere." "That's what I thought." Emma took a massive bite, sauce on her chin. "Do you have kids?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Daniel opened his mouth to redirect, but Isabella spoke first. No, I don't. Did you want them? Emma, Daniel started. It's okay, Isabella said quietly. Then to Emma. My husband and I talked about it. We were going to start trying next year, but then he died, so… She trailed off. Emma absorbed this with the matter-of-fact acceptance children sometimes had for heavy things. That's sad. It is. My mom left. Dad says it's different than dying, but it still feels sad sometimes. I bet it does. But it's okay because Dad's really good at being both parents. He can't braid hair very well, but he tries really hard. And he makes the best dinosaur pancakes, even though they look like blobs. Isabella smiled. I've heard about these legendary pancakes. They're terrible, Emma said cheerfully, but in a good way. After dinner, Emma wanted to show Isabella her room, which meant showing off her collection of stuffed animals, each with an elaborate backstory. Daniel cleaned up the kitchen, listening to Emma's voice drift from down the hall, explaining how Mr. Rabbit was actually a detective and Mrs. Bear ran a bakery. His phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca, Isabella's assistant. Miss Vaughn has been unreachable for 3 hours. Is everything all right? Daniel walked to Emma's doorway. Isabella was sitting cross-legged on the floor holding a stuffed elephant while Emma acted out some complex narrative involving a heist and a birthday party. Hey, your assistant is worried, thinks you've been kidnapped. Isabella checked her phone, eyes widening at the notifications. Oh, I turned it on silent. Rebecca panics if I don't respond within 30 minutes. You should probably let her know you're alive. In a minute. We're at a critical plot point. The elephant just revealed he's actually the baker's long-lost brother. Emma gasped dramatically. I didn't even know that part yet. I'm improvising. Daniel left them to it. 20 minutes later, Isabella emerged, phone in hand, looking slightly guilty. I should probably go. It's getting late, and Rebecca has sent approximately 40 texts ranging from concerned to convinced I've been in an accident. You don't have to… I know, but I should check in. Real-world calling and all that. She looked toward Emma's room. She's amazing, by the way. Your daughter. You're doing something really right. Some days. Other days I'm just hoping we both survive to bedtime. That's probably most of parenting, isn't it? Survival with occasional moments of brilliance? Pretty much, yeah. Emma appeared, dragging her backpack. Isabella, I made you something, for your car. She pulled out a drawing, crayon on construction paper, a figure with yellow hair standing next to what might have been a soccer ball, or possibly the sun. It's you, so you don't forget today. Isabella took it like she was receiving something precious. Emma, this is… Thank you. I love it. You're welcome. You can come back whenever you want. Right, Dad? Right. Good. Because you're fun and you listen good, and Dad needs more friends who aren't just Mrs. Patterson. After Isabella left, drawing carefully rolled in her hand, promising to text when she got home, Daniel got Emma ready for bed. Bath, teeth, pajamas with the unicorns on them. I like her, Emma announced while Daniel tucked her in. Isabella? Yeah, she's sad like you used to be, after Mom left. Daniel sat on the edge of her bed. I didn't know you remembered that. I was little, but I remember. You were sad a lot, but you're not anymore, mostly. Mostly, Daniel agreed. Do you think Isabella will stop being sad? I don't know, baby. Sadness doesn't just go away, but maybe it gets easier to carry. Emma considered this. We should help her, like how Mrs. Patterson helped us. How did Mrs. Patterson help us? She was just nice. And she didn't make it weird when you cried that one time in the kitchen when you thought I was watching TV, but I was actually getting water. Daniel's throat tightened. You saw that? Yeah, but it was okay because crying is just feelings coming out. You told me that once. I did, didn't I? Yep. So we should be nice to Isabella and not make it weird when she has feelings. Emma yawned. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? Dinosaur ones? Obviously. Daniel kissed her forehead. Obviously. Sleep well, Em. Love you, Dad. Love you too. His phone buzzed as he was washing the last of the dishes. Isabella. Home safe. Rebecca thinks I've lost my mind. She might be right. What'd you tell her? That I had dinner with a friend. She asked which board member. I said nobody she knew. Now she's convinced I'm having a secret affair. Are you? With spaghetti and a 7-year-old's tour of stuffed animals society? Absolutely. Most scandalous evening of my life. Daniel smiled. Emma said you listen good. High praise in her book. She's easy to listen to. Doesn't expect anything except attention. It's refreshing. Most kids are like that, before the world teaches them to perform. Long pause. Then, when did we learn that? The performing? Probably earlier than we remember. Small moments. Someone saying, be good, when they meant be quiet. Someone praising us for not crying instead of helping us through the tears. Little things that add up until we forget how to just be. That's depressing. Or it's an opportunity to unlearn it. Another pause. You're doing it again. Can't help myself. I'm putting your drawing on my fridge. First thing that's gone up there since Marcus died. Everything else felt too corporate, too sterile. But this feels right. Like maybe my apartment can be more than just a place I sleep. Good start. Yeah. Maybe. Over the following weeks, a pattern emerged. Not every day, not even every week, but regularly enough to feel like something real. Isabella would text about board meeting frustrations. Daniel would send photos of Emma's latest art project. Sometimes they'd meet for coffee. Sometimes Isabella would show up at the park on Saturday mornings. Terrible at soccer, but enthusiastic about trying. She started painting again, sent Daniel photos of her work, abstract swirls of color that didn't look like anything but felt like something. Started seeing a therapist on Thursday afternoons, started saying no to events that drained her, started, slowly and imperfectly, building a life that felt like hers instead of something she was performing. Then came the Tuesday, 3 weeks after that first dinner. Daniel was at work processing a shipment manifest that made no sense. Someone had listed cardboard boxes as rectangular containers of hope, and he was trying to figure out if it was a joke or a mistake when his phone rang. Isabella. Middle of the workday. She never called during work hours. Hey, can you come over? Her voice was tight, wrong. What's going on? I need... She stopped, breathed. Today's the anniversary, 6 months, and I thought I could handle it. I went to work, had meetings, did the performance, but I just got home and everything feels wrong and I can't do this alone. Daniel checked the time. 3:30. Emma's school ended at 4. I have to pick up my daughter in 30 minutes. Right. Of course. I'm sorry I shouldn't have. Bring her with me. Would that be okay? Silence. Then quietly, you'd do that? Give me 45 minutes. He picked up Emma, who was delighted by the unexpected adventure, and drove to Isabella's building. The same doorman from that first night, James, greeted them with a knowing smile. Ms. Vaughn mentioned you might visit, 23rd floor. The elevator ride felt long. Emma swung their joined hands, humming off key. Is Isabella sad today? Yeah, baby, really sad. Because of her husband? Because of her husband. Oh, should I be quiet? Just be yourself. That's usually the right thing. The elevator opened directly into Isabella's penthouse. Daniel had expected expensive, but this was something else. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked like art, everything white and gray and pristine, like a magazine spread. And in the middle of it all, sitting on the floor with her back against the couch, was Isabella. Still in her work clothes, tailored pants, silk blouse, but barefoot, hair pulled free from whatever professional style she'd worn earlier. Her face was blotchy, eyes red. Emma let go of Daniel's hand and walked straight over, sat down next to Isabella like it was the most natural thing in the world. Hi, Dad says you're having a sad day. Isabella managed a wobbly smile. I am. That's okay. Sad days happen. Can I hug you? Please. Emma wrapped her small arms around Isabella's shoulders. Isabella closed her eyes, holding on like Emma was a life raft. Daniel stood awkwardly in the doorway of this penthouse apartment, watching his 7-year-old comfort a billionaire, and wondered how his life had gotten here. After a moment, Emma pulled back. Do you want to see a magic trick? It's not very good, but it's funny. I'd love that. Emma performed her magic trick, which involved making a quarter disappear by obviously hiding it in her palm while providing elaborate hand gestures and saying abracadabra in the most dramatic voice possible. The quarter fell on the floor halfway through. Emma picked it up and started over. Isabella laughed, wet and broken, but real. That's the best magic trick I've ever seen. Really? Really, the quarter falling made it perfect. Daniel sat down on the other side of Isabella. You okay? No, but better than I was. She gestured around the apartment. This place is a mausoleum. Everything exactly where Marcus left it. His books on the shelf, his coffee mug in the cabinet, his guitar in the corner. I can't move anything, can't change anything. Because if I do, it means he's really gone. That life is really over. So change one thing, Daniel said. Just one. See how it feels. Like what? I don't know. What would you change if you could? Isabella looked around. Her eyes landed on a large, abstract painting above the fireplace, all harsh angles and dark colors. I've always hated that painting. Marcus bought it at some gallery opening, paid obscene money for it. I told him it looked like a nightmare someone had after eating bad sushi. He loved it just to annoy me. So take it down. I can't just... Why not? It's your apartment, your space. If you hate it, take it down. Emma was already standing. I'll help. I'm really good at redecorating. I changed my whole room last month. Dad said it looked like a tornado of pink. It was awesome. Isabella stood slowly, walked to the painting, stood in front of it for a long moment, then reached up and lifted it off the wall. It was heavy. She struggled with it, and Daniel moved to help. Together they carried it to the hall closet, leaned it against the back wall. There, Daniel said. One change. Isabella stared at the blank wall. It looks empty. It looks like possibility, Daniel said. You can hang something you actually like, or leave it blank, or put up Emma's drawing. It's yours now, not his, not the past. Yours. Something shifted in Isabella's face. She walked back to the wall, touched the empty space. I could put up one of my paintings, the terrible ones I've been making. That's a great idea, Emma said. Then every time you see it, you'll remember you made something. Yeah, Isabella said softly. Yeah, I would. She showed them the rest of the apartment, Marcus's office, which she hadn't entered in months, the bedroom where his clothes still hung in the closet, the kitchen where his favorite tea still sat in the cupboard, every room a shrine, every corner a reminder. I don't know how to move forward without erasing him, Isabella said. Every change feels like betrayal. Like I'm saying he didn't matter. They were standing in the office, dark wood furniture, law books lining the shelves, a desk with papers still scattered across it, 6 months of dust. Moving forward isn't erasing, Daniel said. It's just moving. You can take parts of him with you, keep what matters, let go of what doesn't. It's not all or nothing. How do I know what to keep? What made you happy? What made you feel loved? Keep those things. The rest is just stuff. Isabella walked to the desk, picked up a photo frame, her and Marcus on a beach somewhere, both sunburned and laughing. This. I want to keep this. Then keep it. She picked up another item, a ridiculous trophy shaped like a gavel. This is from when he won his first case. He was so proud, kept it on his desk like it was the Nobel Prize. Does it make you happy? She considered. No. It makes me sad. Makes me think about all the cases he'll never win, all the stupid trophies he'll never bring home. Then maybe it goes in the closet with the painting. Really? I can just put it away? You can do whatever you want. It's your life, Isabella, your space, your grief. Nobody else gets to tell you how to do this. She held the trophy for a long moment, then set it in a box, added a few other items, books she'd never read, pens that had run dry, paperweights that served no purpose. Emma found a photo album and flipped through it, narrating what she saw. Is this your wedding? You look so happy. Ooh, is that a dog? You had a dog? Marcus's dog, before we met. Golden retriever named Justice. That's a funny name for a dog. Marcus was a lawyer. He thought it was hilarious. Where's Justice now? He died 2 years ago. Old age. We buried him in Marcus's parents' backyard. Isabella smiled at the memory. Marcus cried like a baby, took a week off work, said Justice deserved a proper mourning period. He sounds nice. He was. He really, really was. They spent 2 hours going through the apartment. Not everything. That would take days, weeks maybe. But enough. Enough to make the space feel less like a frozen moment and more like a place where someone actually lived. They boxed up clothes to donate, cleared out the tea he'd never drink, put away the books that reminded Isabella of loss instead of love, kept the photos, the guitar, the small things that held good memories instead of just pain. By the time they finished, Emma was yawning and the sun was setting outside those massive windows. "Thank you," Isabella said. "Both of you. I couldn't have done this alone." "You could have," Daniel said. "Eventually. But you didn't have to." "No, I suppose not." She looked around the apartment, still expensive, still pristine, but somehow warmer now. Less museum, more home. "Will you stay for dinner? I don't cook, but I can order something, please. I don't want to be alone yet." So they stayed. Ordered Thai food that arrived in amounts that could feed a small army. Sat on the floor of Isabella's living room because Emma declared it more fun than the formal dining table. Ate pad thai and spring rolls while Emma told stories and Isabella laughed and Daniel watched two people who needed each other slowly figure out how to be friends. Later, after Emma had fallen asleep on Isabella's couch, which she'd declared the comfiest thing ever, Daniel and Isabella sat by the windows watching the city lights. "I kept expecting to feel guilty," Isabella said quietly, "for changing things, for putting his stuff away. But I just feel lighter, like I can finally breathe. That's not betrayal. That's healing. Is it? Or am I just forgetting him? You're not forgetting. Look." Daniel pointed to the photos now displayed on the bookshelf. Fewer than before, but the ones that remained showed real joy. You kept what mattered. The love, the memories, the good parts. You just let go of the shrine. There's a difference. Isabella leaned her head against the window. "My therapist says I've been stuck, that I keep circling the same grief instead of moving through it. Today was supposed to be terrible. And it was, for a while. But then you came, and Emma came, and we put away a stupid painting, and suddenly everything felt possible again. 6 months is a long time to carry everything alone. I wasn't alone. I had the board, my assistant, my employees. That's not the same as having people who see you, really see you, not the version you perform. No, it's not." She turned to look at him. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why are you doing this? And don't say it's simple or that you're just helping someone who needed help. I need the real answer." Daniel thought about it, about his ex-wife's note on the counter, about the 6 months he'd spent drowning before figuring out how to swim, about all the people who'd walked past his pain because it was easier than stopping, because someone should have done it for me, he said finally. "When my wife left, when I was falling apart, people avoided me. They didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. They saw me struggling and looked away, and I learned what loneliness really meant. Not being alone, but being surrounded by people who refuse to see you're drowning. So you're paying it forward. I'm just refusing to look away. If that means showing up when someone's having the worst day, if that means helping box up a dead husband's belongings or playing soccer with a stranger's kid, if it means sitting in silence while someone figures out how to breathe again." He shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing this for you at all. Maybe I'm doing it for the version of me that needed someone to stay 3 years ago." Isabella's eyes were wet. "That's either the saddest or most beautiful thing I've ever heard." "Probably both." They sat in silence for a while. Emma snored softly from the couch. The city hummed below, indifferent to the small human moments happening in apartment 23C. "I think I'm going to be okay," Isabella said eventually. "Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, because of this. Because of you. You're going to be okay because you're doing the work. I'm just here for moral support and terrible soccer playing. Don't sell yourself short. You're also here for annoyingly accurate observations and unconditional patience." "Fair point." Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. "It's getting late. I should get Emma home. School tomorrow." "Right, of course." Isabella stood, helped him gather their things. Emma barely woke up when Daniel lifted her, just mumbled something about magic quarters, and fell back asleep against his shoulder. At the door, Isabella hugged them both, careful not to wake Emma, but fierce enough to mean something. "Thank you. For today. For all of it. Anytime. I mean that. I know you do. That's what makes you dangerous." Dangerous how? You make me believe things are possible, that I can be more than just the grieving widow or the successful CEO, that I can be messy and broken and still deserving of kindness. She stepped back. That's terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. Daniel shifted Emma's weight. Call if you need anything, even if it's 3 a.m. and you're spiraling, especially if it's 3 a.m. and you're spiraling. You're going to regret that offer. Nah, I'm a light sleeper anyway. The elevator ride down felt different than the ride up. Heavier somehow, like they'd crossed some invisible line that couldn't be uncrossed. James held the door open. Have a good night, Mr. Hayes, young miss. You too, James. In the car, Emma stirred. Did we help Isabella? Yeah, baby, I think we did. Good. She deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to be happy. Yeah, but some people need more help getting there. That's what you always say. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't always notice because you're busy being a dad. Daniel smiled, pulling into traffic. Fair enough. That night, after Emma was asleep in her own bed, after the dishes were done and the lunch was packed for tomorrow, Daniel stood on his balcony and looked out at the city. Somewhere in one of those lit windows, Isabella Vaughn was probably still awake, probably looking at the blank wall where the painting used to be, probably wondering if change was betrayal or just necessary. His phone buzzed. I hung up one of my paintings, the blue one with the gold swirls. It looks terrible and perfect. Thank you for pushing me. 4. How does it feel? Like my apartment is finally mine. Like I can start building something new without destroying what came before. Like maybe both things can exist. The grief and the moving forward. They can. They do. I'm starting to believe that, slowly, imperfectly. But starting. That's all anyone can ask. Good night, Daniel. Hug Emma for me. Will do. Sleep well, Isabella. Daniel pocketed his phone and went inside. Stopped by Emma's room, watched her sleep for a moment. Brushed hair from her forehead, tucked her blanket tighter. In his own bed, he thought about the strange trajectory of the past few weeks. How a moment of kindness had somehow turned into this, into friendship, into showing up, into helping someone find their way back to themselves. He didn't know where it was going, didn't know if Isabella would wake up tomorrow and regret opening up, didn't know if this fragile thing they'd built, this odd friendship between a single dad and a grieving billionaire, would survive the weight of real life. But he knew one thing. He wasn't sorry. Not for staying that first night, not for buying terrible pie, not for showing up today when she called, not for any of it, because some people were worth showing up for. And Isabella Vaughn, for all her complications and contradictions, was one of them. He closed his eyes and slept. 2 weeks passed before the other shoe dropped. Daniel should have seen it coming, should have recognized that something this fragile, this strange friendship built on vulnerability and late-night texts, couldn't exist in a vacuum forever. That eventually, the real world would notice and have opinions. The first sign came on a Thursday morning. Daniel was making Emma's lunch, peanut butter and jelly, carrot sticks she wouldn't eat but he packed anyway, when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Hayes, this is Gordon Webb from the Financial Chronicle. I'm doing a piece on Isabella Vaughn, and I understand you two have become quite close. Would you be available for comment? Daniel's hand stilled on the sandwich. How did you get this number? Public records. Look, I'm just trying to get the full story. Ms. Vaughn has been behaving erratically lately, canceling major speaking engagements, missing board meetings, seen in public with a mysterious man and child. Our readers deserve to know if the CEO of a billion-dollar company is stable enough to... Daniel hung up. His phone rang again immediately. Different number. He declined the call. Then another. And another. Dad? Emma looked up from her cereal. Why's your phone being weird? Just some confused people with wrong numbers. He texted Isabella. Heads up. Reporters calling about us. Might want to warn your PR team. The response came fast. Already on it, they found photos from the park. Someone recognized me. I'm so sorry. Not your fault. It is. I should have been more careful, should have thought about how this would look. How what would look? 2 people being friends? A billionaire, CEO, spending time with a single father. Apparently that's scandalous. Rebecca's phone has been ringing off the hook. Board members are concerned. It's a mess. Daniel stared at the phone. Around him, the kitchen continued its normal morning rhythm. Emma eating cereal, toast burning slightly in the toaster, coffee maker gurgling. Everything ordinary except for the fact that apparently he'd become news. "What do you need from me?" he typed. Long pause, then distance, probably. For a while. Until this blows over. "I'm sorry. This isn't fair to you or Emma." Something cold settled in Daniel's chest. "You're cutting me off because reporters are nosy? I'm protecting you. This is my world, my mess. You shouldn't have to deal with it. Shouldn't I get a say in that?" No response. At work, Marcus from IT cornered him by the coffee machine. "Dude, did you see this?" He held up his phone. Article headline: Vaughn Industries CEO's Mystery Man. Romance or Rebound? The photo showed Isabella at the park, laughing while Emma kicked a soccer ball. Daniel was in the background, slightly blurry but recognizable. The caption speculated about everything from secret relationships to gold-digging schemes to mental health crises. "That's insane," Daniel said. "It's the internet. Everything's insane." Marcus grinned. "So are you actually dating a billionaire, or is this tabloid nonsense?" "We're friends. That's it." "Friends who hang out in parks with your kid? Come on, man. That's dating behavior." "It's friendship behavior. People are allowed to be friends. Not billionaire CEOs and regular people. That's like, I don't know, different social classes or whatever. It doesn't compute." Daniel grabbed his coffee, walked away. But Marcus's words stuck with him. Different social classes. Like being rich meant you couldn't have normal human connections. Like money created some kind of barrier that friendship couldn't cross. His phone buzzed constantly throughout the day. More unknown numbers, a few texts from people he barely knew, asking if the rumors were true. One message from an old college friend he hadn't spoken to in 5 years. "Bro, saw you in the news. When did you become a billionaire's boy toy?" He ignored all of it. That evening, picking up Emma from school, he noticed other parents staring, whispering. One mom he'd chatted with a few times at pickup, Sarah, her son was in Emma's class, approached with a tight smile. "So I saw something interesting online today." "Did you?" "That woman you were with at the park. That's Isabella Vaughn, from Vaughn Industries." "Yep." "And you're friends?" "That's generally what I call people I spend time with voluntarily." Sarah's smile got tighter. "It's just unusual, don't you think? Someone like that spending time in our neighborhood? With our kids." "Someone like what?" "You know, rich, powerful, different." Daniel felt his jaw clench. "She's a person, Sarah. Same as you, same as me. She laughs at bad jokes and cries at sad things and plays terrible soccer. The money doesn't change that. Still, you should be careful. People like that, they're not like us. They use people. Have a good evening, Sarah." He took Emma's hand and walked away. In the car, Emma said, "Why was Mrs. Keller being weird? People get weird about things they don't understand. Is she mad about Isabella?" "Not mad exactly, just confused." "That's dumb. Isabella's nice." "Yeah, baby, she is." That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel sat on his balcony and stared at his phone. No messages from Isabella since that morning. He typed out a text 3 times and deleted it each time. What was there to say? She'd asked for space. He should respect that. But the silence felt wrong, felt like surrender. He typed, "I get that you're trying to protect me, but I'm not made of glass. Neither's Emma. We can handle some nosy reporters and gossipy parents." 20 minutes passed. Then, "It's not just reporters. The board called an emergency meeting. They're questioning my judgment, suggesting I'm not stable enough to lead, using our friendship as evidence that I'm making poor decisions. That's ridiculous." Is it? From their perspective, I'm a grieving widow who's suddenly spending all her time with a stranger, who canceled a major keynote, missed important meetings, completely reorganized her priorities. They see instability. They see someone getting healthy. That's not the same thing. To them it is. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am being reckless. Maybe I'm using you as some kind of crutch to avoid dealing with my actual life. Daniel stared at that message. Do you believe that? Long pause. I don't know what I believe anymore. Everything's so loud and complicated, and I can't think clearly with everyone having opinions about my choices. So make them stop having opinions. Tell them to back off. You're the CEO. It doesn't work like that. I answer to shareholders, board members, public perception. I can't just do whatever I want, can't you? What's the point of being successful if you're still trapped? No response for a full minute. Then, I need to think. I'm sorry. I just need some time to figure out what I'm doing. Okay. Take your time. Thank you for understanding. But Daniel didn't understand. Didn't understand how friendship could be seen as scandalous. Didn't understand how helping someone heal could be twisted into something dark and manipulative. Didn't understand how the world could be so determined to make connection complicated. He went to bed angry and woke up angrier. Friday morning brought more articles, more speculation. Someone had dug up information about his ex-wife, about the divorce, about his finances. They painted a picture of a struggling single father who'd latched onto a wealthy widow for financial gain. Never mind that Isabella had sought him out. Never mind that he'd never asked her for anything. The narrative was set. Opportunistic man takes advantage of vulnerable woman. At work, his supervisor called him into the office. Daniel, I need to ask about something. These articles are nonsense. Maybe so, but we're a supplier for Vaughn Industries. If there's any conflict of interest, there's not. Isabella and I are friends. That's it. It doesn't affect my work. His supervisor looked uncomfortable. I believe you, but appearances matter. And if the client company thinks there's impropriety, are you firing me because I have a friend? No, of course not. I'm just saying maybe keep some distance until this blows over. For everyone's sake. Daniel left the office feeling like the world had tilted sideways. Since when did having friends require approval from your employer? The weekend was worse. Photographers showed up at the park during Emma's soccer practice. She didn't notice, too focused on proving Madison wrong about her goalie skills. But Daniel did. Two guys with cameras trying to be subtle and failing. He walked over. Can I help you? Public space, man. We're allowed to be here. You're allowed to be here. You're not allowed to photograph my daughter. We're not photographing her. We're photographing you. Then stop. I'm nobody. This isn't a story. You're the guy banging Isabella Vaughn. That's a story. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. We're not. Get out of here before I call the cops. For what? Standing in a park? One of the other parents, Emma's teammate's dad, Mark, walked over. Problem? These guys are photographing kids. Mark's expression darkened. He was bigger than Daniel, worked construction, had the kind of presence that made people reconsider their choices. That true? The photographers backed up. We're leaving. Jesus, touchy. After they left, Mark said, You okay? Yeah, thanks for the backup. No problem. For what it's worth, I don't care who you're friends with. You're a good dad and Emma's a great kid. That's what matters. Appreciate that, but not everyone felt the same way. That afternoon, Daniel's phone rang. His mother. Danny, I just saw the news. What on earth is going on? Hi, Mom. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Don't be smart. Are you really involved with that Vaughn woman? We're friends. Friends don't end up in tabloids. They do if the tabloids are desperate for content. This is serious. What if this affects Emma? What if people at her school treat her differently? People at her school barely know who Isabella Vaughn is. Still, you need to be careful. Think about your daughter. I am thinking about her. I'm thinking that she deserves to see her dad have friendships with good people. I'm thinking that teaching her to hide relationships because of what strangers might think is exactly the wrong lesson. His mother sighed. I'm just worried. I know, but I'm handling it. After they hung up, Daniel found Emma watching TV in the living room. Hey, Em, can we talk? She paused her show. Am I in trouble? No, but I want to check in. Have any kids at school been weird to you? About Isabella or the news or anything? Emma shrugged. Tyler asked if she was my new mom. I said, no, she's our friend. He said that's cool because his mom has friends too. That's it? Yeah, why? Just making sure you're okay with everything. I'm fine, Dad. Isabella's nice and I like her. I don't care what other people think. Daniel pulled her into a hug. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just don't always notice because you're busy being worried. By Monday, Daniel still hadn't heard from Isabella. The silence was starting to feel less like space and more like absence. He texted, "How are you holding up?" 4 hours later, "Surviving. Board meeting tomorrow. Need to prove I'm stable and focused. PR team has a whole strategy. It's exhausting. Want to talk about it? Can't. They advised against contact until the story dies down. I'm sorry. This is harder than I thought it would be. You don't have to do what they say. Don't I? This is my company, my responsibility. I can't let personal relationships jeopardize everything I've built. So I'm a jeopardizer now? You know that's not what I meant. Do I? Because from here it looks like you're letting scared board members and opportunistic reporters decide who you're allowed to care about." Long pause. Then, "It's not fair, isn't it? You asked for space. I gave it. You said you needed time. I'm giving that too. But this feels less like figuring things out and more like running away." "I'm not running away. I'm being responsible." "To who? The board? The shareholders? What about responsibility to yourself? To the healing you've been doing?" No response. Daniel stared at his phone for 20 minutes, waiting. Nothing came. He went to bed feeling like he'd lost something he couldn't quite name. Tuesday morning, Emma asked, "Is Isabella okay? She hasn't texted in a while." "She's dealing with work stuff, adult things." "Is she mad at us?" "No, baby. She's just figuring some things out." "Can we help?" "I don't think so. Not this time." Emma looked sad in the way kids did when they couldn't fix something. "That's not fair." "No, it's not." That afternoon, Daniel was processing invoices when his supervisor appeared at his desk. "Conference room, now." Inside, 3 people waited. His supervisor, HR, and a woman he didn't recognize in an expensive suit. "Mr. Hayes, this is Patricia Morgan, legal counsel for Vaughn Industries." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What's this about?" Patricia smiled without warmth. "We've become aware of your relationship with Ms. Vaughn. Given that you work for a supplier company, there are concerns about potential conflicts of interest. I process cardboard box orders. There's no conflict. Nevertheless, Vaughn Industries takes ethics very seriously. We can't have employees of our suppliers engaged in personal relationships with our executives. It creates liability issues." "So you're asking me to stop being friends with someone because it makes your lawyers nervous?" "We're asking you to maintain appropriate professional boundaries." "And if I don't?" Patricia's smile got colder. "Then Vaughn Industries may need to reconsider its relationship with Brennan Logistics, which, as I understand it, represents approximately 40% of your company's revenue." The room went quiet. Daniel looked at his supervisor, who wouldn't meet his eyes. "So either I stop seeing Isabella, or my company loses a major client and probably has to lay people off." "Those are harsh terms, Mr. Hayes. We prefer to think of it as maintaining professional standards. That's corporate speak for extortion. That's business, Mr. Hayes, nothing personal. Everything about this is personal." Patricia stood gathering her briefcase. "Think about it. We'll need your decision by end of week." She paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I'm sure this is difficult, but Ms. Vaughn has a responsibility to her company. I'm sure you understand." After they left, Daniel's supervisor said, "I'm sorry, I tried to push back, but it's fine. It's not fine, it's blackmail." "Yeah, but what am I supposed to do? Let everyone here lose their jobs because I want to be friends with someone? This isn't on you." "Feels like it is." Daniel left work early, sat in his car in the parking lot, and called Isabella. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again, same thing. He texted, "Your company's legal team just threatened my job. Call me." An hour passed. Then, "I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I'll talk to them. Don't bother. Just tell me one thing. Was this your idea or theirs?" "What?" "No. I would never—" "But you knew they were worried about conflicts of interest. You knew they wanted distance, and you didn't fight it. Daniel, please. This is complicated. It's really not. Either you think our friendship is worth protecting, or you don't. Sounds like you've made your choice." "That's not fair. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "You're right. I don't understand. Because when something matters to me, I fight for it. I don't let lawyers and board members and public opinion dictate my relationships. You can afford to think that way. You're not responsible for thousands of jobs, billions in shareholder value, a company legacy. No, I'm just responsible for my daughter and myself. Apparently, that makes me the lucky one. No response came. That night, Daniel made dinner in silence. Emma chatted about school, but kept throwing worried glances his way. Finally, over spaghetti, regular spaghetti this time, normal amount of garlic, she said, "Are you and Isabella fighting?" Something like that. About what? About whether friendship is more important than what other people think. That's dumb. Of course friendship is more important. You'd think so. Are you going to stop being friends with her? Daniel set down his fork. I don't want to, but it might not be up to me. That's really dumb. Grown-ups make everything so complicated. Yeah, kiddo, we really do. Wednesday brought a new article. This one worse than the others. Sources close to Vaughn Industries claimed Daniel had been harassing Isabella, that she'd tried to distance herself but he'd persisted, that the company had been forced to intervene to protect their CEO from an obsessive admirer. The twisted version of reality made Daniel's blood boil. He'd never harassed anyone, had always respected Isabella's space, her boundaries, her choices. And now he was being painted as some kind of stalker because their friendship didn't fit the narrative people wanted. He forwarded the article to Isabella. This is what your company's PR strategy looks like. Hope it was worth it. For the first time, she called, Daniel, I swear I didn't authorize this. I didn't know they were going to... But you let them handle it. You let your PR team control the narrative instead of just telling the truth. What truth? That we're friends? Nobody believes that. Why not? Because... She stopped, started again. Because people like me don't have friends like you. Not in their world. Rich people are friends with rich people. Everyone else is networking or opportunism or some kind of angle. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's reality. It's your reality. It doesn't have to be mine. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. They're asking me to make a statement, clarifying that we were acquaintances, nothing more, that any friendship was misinterpreted. And you're going to do it. I don't know. I don't know what to do, Daniel. Everyone's telling me one thing and my gut's telling me another, and I can't think straight. Then don't make the statement. Just tell them the truth, that we're friends, that you're allowed to have friends, that your personal life is nobody's business but yours. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'll lose everything. The board's already talking about a vote of no confidence. If I push back on this, if I refuse to play by their rules, they'll remove me. Everything I've built, everything Marcus and I worked for, it'll be gone. So you're choosing the company over friendship. I'm choosing survival. There's a difference. Is there? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Isabella said, I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep disappointing people, letting them down, making everything complicated. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe I do need to focus on work, on healing the right way, without dragging you into my mess. I chose to be in your mess. You didn't drag me anywhere. Still, this isn't fair to you or Emma. You deserve normal, simple, not tabloids and lawyers and all this chaos. You don't get to decide what I deserve. No, but I can decide what I'm capable of giving. And right now, Daniel, I'm barely capable of getting through the day. I can't be your friend and the CEO and the widow and all these other things everyone needs me to be. Something has to give. So you're picking me to give. Her voice cracked. I'm picking the option that hurts the fewest people. It's hurting me. It's going to hurt Emma. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. I know that too. Daniel closed his eyes. For what it's worth, I think you're making a mistake. I think you're letting fear make your decisions, and I think you're going to regret this. Maybe, probably, but I have to do it anyway. Okay. Okay? Yeah, okay. I'm not going to beg you to be my friend, Isabella. I'm not going to convince you that you're worth fighting for. Either you know that or you don't. Daniel. Goodbye, Isabella. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. He hung up before she could respond. Sat on his balcony in the November cold and felt something break that he hadn't known was breakable. Emma found him there 20 minutes later. Dad, you're crying. Yeah, baby, I am. Is it because of Isabella? Yeah. Emma climbed into his lap, too big for it really, but he held her anyway. I'm sorry, Dad. Not your fault, Em. I know, but I'm still sorry. She was quiet for a moment. Are we going to see her again? I don't think so. That's really sad. Yeah, it really is. They sat together in the cold until Emma started shivering and Daniel carried her inside. Made hot chocolate. Watched a movie neither of them paid attention to. Went through the motions of normal while everything felt wrong. That night, unable to sleep, Daniel checked his phone one last time. One new message. Isabella, you were right about all of it. I am letting fear decide. I am running away. I am choosing what's safe over what's real. And I hate myself for it. But I don't know how to be brave enough to choose differently. I'm sorry I'm disappointing you. I'm sorry I'm disappointing myself. I hope someday you can forgive me for being too weak to fight for something that mattered. Daniel stared at the message for a long time. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He could respond, could tell her it wasn't too late, could offer her one more chance, one more olive branch. But he didn't. Because she was right about one thing, she wasn't ready. And he couldn't fix that for her, couldn't force her to be brave, couldn't make her choose friendship over fear. That had to come from her. He set the phone down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow he'd wake up and make Emma breakfast, would go to work and process cardboard box orders, would survive the whispers and the stares and the gradual fade of this whole strange chapter, would rebuild the simple, quiet life he'd had before Isabella Vaughn fell apart in a conference room and let him see her breaking. It would be okay. Eventually. Maybe. But tonight, it just hurt. And sometimes hurt was all there was. 3 weeks passed like walking through fog. Daniel went through the motions. Breakfast, work, pickup, dinner, bedtime, repeat. Emma stopped asking about Isabella after the first week, though sometimes Daniel caught her staring at the drawing still on their fridge. The one of Isabella playing soccer with the badly drawn ball that might have been the sun. The media storm faded the way these things did, replaced by the next scandal, the next drama. Vaughn Industries issued a brief statement about maintaining professional boundaries and protecting employee privacy. Isabella made no public appearances. The world moved on. Daniel tried to do the same. You're doing the face again, Emma said one morning over cereal. What face? The sad trying not to be sad face, the one from when Mom left. I'm fine, Em. You keep saying that, but your eyebrows tell a different story. Daniel managed a real smile. When did you become the parent? Someone has to pay attention around here. Work became a refuge of sorts. Numbers didn't have feelings. Shipping manifests didn't ask questions. Cardboard boxes just existed, simple and uncomplicated. Marcus from IT tried once to bring up the whole situation. So what actually happened with the billionaire thing? And Daniel's expression must have communicated something because Marcus immediately backpedaled. Right, none of my business. Cool. Want to grab lunch? They grabbed lunch. Talked about nothing important. It helped. The second week, Mrs. Patterson mentioned she'd seen something in the news about Vaughn Industries restructuring their board. That woman you were friends with, she resigned as CEO. Voluntarily, they said. Named some vice president as her replacement. Quite the shakeup. Daniel had stared at his phone for 20 minutes after that conversation, thumb hovering over Isabella's contact. But what would he say? Sorry your company ate you alive? Told you so? Nothing felt right, so he said nothing. Emma's soccer team made it to the finals. She was ecstatic, practicing her goalie dives in the living room until Daniel worried about the downstairs neighbors. The championship game fell on a Saturday. Cold, clear, November, biting at exposed skin. Emma's team lost 3-2. She cried in the car on the way home, angry tears about unfair refs and how she'd almost blocked that last goal. Almost. Daniel let her cry, offered no platitudes about effort or trying her best. Sometimes you just needed to be sad about losing. At home, she disappeared into her room. Daniel made hot chocolate, knocked softly. Can I come in? I guess. She was sitting on her bed, still in her soccer uniform, grass stains on the knees. Daniel sat beside her, handed her the mug. This sucks, Emma said. Yeah, it does. We were so close. You were. You played great. Not great enough. Sometimes great isn't enough. Sometimes you do everything right, and it still doesn't work out. He paused. That's not a fun lesson, but it's true. Emma was quiet for a moment, sipping chocolate. Then, is that what happened with Isabella? You did everything right, but it still didn't work? Daniel hadn't expected the question. Sort of. That's not fair. No, but fair doesn't really factor into most things. Do you miss her? Yeah, baby, I do. Me too. She was really nice and funny, and she tried so hard at soccer even though she was terrible. She was spectacularly terrible. The worst I've ever seen. They smiled at each other. Small, sad smiles. Can I tell you something? Emma asked. Always. I think she was sad like you were sad. After Mom. Like trying really hard to pretend everything was okay when it wasn't. That's very perceptive. You say that a lot, but I'm just paying attention. You're the one who taught me that people show things even when they don't say things. I did teach you that. So yeah, I think she needed us, and I think maybe she was just too scared to let herself need anyone. Daniel pulled Emma close. When did you get so wise? I keep asking, but you never answer. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel sat on his balcony despite the cold. The city sprawled below, all those lights representing all those lives. Somewhere out there, Isabella Vaughn was probably awake too. Probably staring at her own city view from her own space, wondering if she'd made the right choice. His phone buzzed. Unknown number, but he recognized the pattern. Another reporter, probably. He almost declined, then something made him answer. Hello? Mr. Hayes? A woman's voice, professional. This is Rebecca Chen. Isabella's assistant. Daniel sat up straighter. Is everything okay? That depends on your definition of okay. Rebecca sounded tired. Ms. Vaughn asked me not to call you. Specifically forbade it, actually. But I'm calling anyway because someone needs to tell you what's happening and she won't do it herself. What's happening? She resigned 4 days ago, stepped down as CEO, gave up her board seat, walked away from everything. I heard. The news said it was voluntary. It was, kind of. The board was planning to force her out anyway, vote of no confidence scheduled for next week. She just beat them to it. Rebecca paused. She's been falling apart, Mr. Hayes. Worse than before you met her. She goes to therapy 3 times a week now, barely leaves her apartment. Painted over every wall in the place, and I mean every wall, including the bathroom. It looks like an art gallery exploded. Why are you telling me this? Because she won't. Because she's convinced herself that pushing you away was the right thing, the noble thing, that she was protecting you from her mess. Rebecca's voice turned sharp. But I've worked for Isabella Vaughn for 6 years. I've seen her at her best and her worst. And the worst she's ever been was these last 3 weeks, since she cut you off. I don't know what you want me to do with this information. I want you to know that she's not okay. I want you to know that walking away from the company wasn't brave or empowering. It was her running away from the one thing she thought she could control after losing control of everything else. A pause. And I want you to know that she talks about you. In therapy, apparently. About how you saw her at her lowest and stayed. About how she ruined the one genuine friendship she'd had in years because she was too scared to fight for it. Daniel closed his eyes. Rebecca, I appreciate the call. But if Isabella wanted to talk to me, she knows how to find me. Does she, though? After everything that happened? After her company's lawyers threatened your job? After the media made you out to be some kind of opportunist? Do you really think she believes she has the right to reach out? That's on her to figure out. Or maybe it's on you to tell her it's okay to try. Why would I do that? She made her choice. She made a scared choice. There's a difference. Rebecca's voice softened. Look, I know I'm overstepping. I know this is none of my business. But I've watched Isabella build walls around herself for 6 months. You were the first person who got through them, and now she's building them higher and thicker because she thinks that's what keeps people safe. But it's just making her more alone. I can't fix her, Rebecca. That's not how this works. I'm not asking you to fix her. I'm asking you to think about whether you're willing to show up one more time, not to rescue her, not to solve her problems, just to show up and let her know that the door's not completely closed. After Rebecca hung up, Daniel sat in the cold for another hour. Thought about Emma's words, that Isabella was scared like he'd been scared. Thought about his own journey through grief and anger and eventually to something like peace. How long it had taken. How many times he'd almost given up. How different it might have been if someone had shown up and reminded him he was worth fighting for. Monday morning, Daniel called in sick to work. Dropped Emma at school with Mrs. Patterson on standby for pickup. Stood outside Isabella's building for 10 minutes, questioning every decision that had led him here. James the doorman recognized him. "Mr. Hayes, I wondered if you might show up." "Is she here?" 23rd floor, same as always." James hesitated. For what it's worth, she's been miserable. More miserable than when her husband died, if that's possible. At least then she had work to hide behind. Daniel took the elevator up. Each floor felt like crossing deeper into uncertain territory. What was he even doing here? Rebecca had called, sure, but that didn't mean Isabella wanted to see him. Didn't mean showing up was the right move. The doors opened. He stood in the hallway for a solid minute before knocking. Nothing. He knocked again. "Rebecca? I told you I'm fine. Just leave the groceries." The door opened. Isabella stood there in paint-splattered clothes, hair in a messy knot, no makeup, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She froze. "Daniel. Hey. How did you?" "Rebecca called. Told me you were struggling." Isabella's face went through several emotions: surprise, anger, something like hope quickly suppressed. She had no right. "Probably not. But she did it anyway. Can I come in?" Isabella stepped back wordlessly. Daniel entered the apartment and stopped dead. Every wall was covered in paint. Not neat professional work. Chaotic, emotional explosions of color. Blues and golds and deep purples. Abstract shapes that might have been feelings given form. It was beautiful and terrible and completely overwhelming. "I've been painting," Isabella said unnecessarily. "I see that." I couldn't stop. Every time I tried to sleep, my brain would just spiral, so I'd paint instead. I've gone through 47 canvases, and when those ran out, I just started on the walls. She laughed, brittle. "My landlord's going to have a fit, but I own the building, so I guess I'm really just making a mess of my own property." "Isabella, you shouldn't be here. After everything that happened, after what my company did to you, you should hate me." "I don't hate you." "Why not? I chose wrong. I picked fear and corporate politics over friendship, over you and Emma. I let lawyers and board members dictate my life. And then I was surprised when my life felt empty and controlled." She gestured around. "So I quit. Just walked away from everything I'd built because I couldn't stand being there anymore. Couldn't stand being the person they needed me to be." "Rebecca said you've been going to therapy 3 times a week. My therapist says I'm processing delayed grief and reassessing my core values. I say I'm having a prolonged breakdown and trying not to completely fall apart." Isabella's voice cracked. "I'm a mess, Daniel. I resigned from my own company. I'm painting walls at 3 a.m. I cry in the grocery store. I'm exactly the unstable person the board thought I was. Or you're exactly the human person you've always been, finally letting yourself feel it. That's what my therapist says." Smart therapist. Isabella looked at him, really looked, the way she had that first night in the diner. "Why are you here?" "Because Rebecca said you've been talking about me in therapy. Because Emma misses you. Because I miss you." He paused. "Because I think you're drowning again, and I'm apparently unable to walk away when that happens." "You should walk away. I don't deserve—" "Stop." Daniel's voice was firm. "Stop deciding what you deserve. Stop punishing yourself. Stop building walls because you think that's what keeps people safe." "But what if I hurt you again? What if I make another scared choice and run away? Then you'll hurt me and run away. And I'll be sad and angry, and then we'll figure it out or we won't. That's how relationships work, any relationship, friendship or otherwise. They're risky. People disappoint each other. But that doesn't mean they're not worth trying." Isabella was crying now, silent tears tracking through paint smudges on her cheeks. "I'm so tired of being scared." "I know. I'm tired of performing and pretending and being the person everyone needs instead of just being myself." "So stop. It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple. It's just not easy. There's a difference." Daniel moved closer. "You quit your job. That's a start. Now quit apologizing for taking up space. Quit assuming you have to earn the right to be cared about. Quit thinking that being messy makes you unworthy of friendship. What if I don't know how?" "Then learn. One day at a time, one honest conversation, one moment of letting yourself need people, one choice to show up instead of hide." Isabella laughed through tears. "You make it sound possible." "It is possible. You're doing it right now, standing here, letting me see you falling apart instead of performing stability. That's progress. This is progress. I look like I've been living in an art supply store. You look like someone who's finally letting herself feel instead of manage. I'd say that's definite progress. Isabella wiped her eyes, smearing paint further. Emma must hate me. Emma misses you. She thinks you're sad like I was sad. She wants to help but doesn't know how. I don't want to hurt her. Then don't run away. Show up. Be honest. Let her see that adults struggle too, that it's okay to be imperfect. Daniel paused. Kids are more resilient than we think. What hurts them isn't seeing us struggle. It's seeing us pretend we're not struggling and thinking that's normal. Isabella was quiet for a long moment, looking around at her painted walls. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I thought the company was my purpose, my identity. Without it, I'm just lost. So find yourself. Not the CEO version, not the widow everyone wants you to be, just you. The person who loves terrible coffee and makes messy art and plays spectacularly bad soccer. That person doesn't feel very impressive. That person is the one worth knowing. The rest is just window dressing. Isabella moved to the window, looked out at the city. I've been thinking about what you said, about choosing fear versus choosing what's real. You were right. I did let fear decide. I let other people's opinions matter more than my own truth, and it cost me the first genuine connection I'd had in years. So what are you going to do about it? She turned to face him. I'm going to ask if we can try again. Friendship, I mean, not the complicated version where I'm worried about appearances or what board members think, just simple, honest friendship where we show up for each other and don't run when things get hard. And if things get hard again, then we deal with it, together, like adults who've chosen to give a damn about each other. She paused. If you're willing, I know I don't deserve second chances after. Stop deciding what you deserve. That's my call to make. And yeah, I'm willing. But I need to know you're actually ready this time. That you're not going to let the next crisis or judgmental board member send you running. I can't promise I won't get scared. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for effort. For showing up even when it's uncomfortable. For being honest instead of performing. Daniel met her eyes. Can you do that? Isabella took a shaky breath. I can try. That's all I've got right now, the willingness to try. That's enough. Trying is always enough. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Isabella said, Would Emma want to see me? I understand if she's angry or she's not angry. She's 7. She just wants her friend back. I'd like that. To be her friend again. To be your friend again. Isabella gestured at the chaos around them. Fair warning, I'm kind of a disaster right now. The media was right about that part at least. Everyone's a disaster. You're just honest about it now. That's actually an improvement. Only you would see personal collapse as improvement. It's not collapse. It's reconstruction. You're rebuilding from the ground up. That's hard work, but it's important work. Isabella smiled, small but real. Have I mentioned you're annoyingly optimistic? You've mentioned I'm annoying. The optimistic part is new. Well, you are. Both things. It's frustrating and comforting in equal measure. They ordered lunch. Thai food again. Enough to feed a small army. Sat on the floor of Isabella's paint-covered living room, eating pad thai and talking about everything and nothing. Isabella told him about therapy, about her therapist's insistence that she stop managing her grief and actually feel it, about the terrifying freedom of not having meetings to hide behind. Daniel told her about Emma's soccer championship loss, about the reporters finally leaving him alone, about how work had been awkward for a week, but eventually everyone moved on to other gossip. I'm sorry about the legal team, Isabella said. I didn't know they were going to threaten your job until after. When I found out, I told them to back off immediately. Made it very clear that was completely unacceptable. Is that part of why you quit? Part of it. Mostly, I quit because I looked at my calendar one day and realized I had meetings scheduled for the next 8 months, every day, every week, just an endless parade of obligations and appearances and performance. And I thought, is this it? Is this what my life is now? Just going through motions until I die? Sounds bleak. It was bleak. So I stopped. Just stopped. sent a resignation letter, ignored everyone's attempts to talk me out of it, and walked away. She picked at her noodles. Everyone thinks I'm having a breakdown. Maybe I am, but it feels more like waking up. What are you going to do now? I have no idea. I've never not had a plan before. It's terrifying, also kind of exciting. She laughed. My therapist says I should sit with the uncertainty, learn to be comfortable with not knowing. I'm terrible at it. Nobody's good at uncertainty. We just pretend we are. Is that what you did after your wife left? Daniel considered. I didn't have the luxury of sitting with uncertainty. I had a 4-year-old who needed breakfast and someone to tie her shoes. So I just did the next thing, then the next thing. Eventually the next things added up to a life. That's kind of beautiful in its simplicity. Or it's just survival with better PR. Isabella smiled. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you come here today? Really? You could have just ignored Rebecca's call. Could have decided I'd made my choice, and that was that. Why show up? Daniel thought about it. About Emma's words, about his own journey, about the fundamental unfairness of healing alone. Because someone should have shown up for me. When my wife left, when I was drowning, people saw me struggling and looked away. They didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. They didn't want to intrude, so they stayed distant. And I learned that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being surrounded by people who refuse to see you. So you're paying it forward. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just refusing to be the person who looks away. Even when it's complicated. Even when showing up might not fix anything. He paused. You matter, Isabella. Your healing matters. Your mess matters. You don't have to be perfect or have all the answers. You just have to keep showing up for yourself. And sometimes let other people show up for you too. Isabella's eyes filled. How do you always know exactly what to say? I don't. I just say what I wish someone had said to me. They finished lunch. Isabella insisted on showing Daniel her paintings, dozens of canvases stacked against walls, each one a different emotion made visible. Some were angry, all harsh reds and blacks. Some were sad, blues bleeding into grays. Some were hopeful, golds and greens reaching towards something lighter. These are good, Daniel said, and meant it. They're therapy. My therapist said I should find nonverbal ways to process. Apparently I'm very good at intellectualizing my feelings and terrible at actually experiencing them. Sounds like most people. Maybe. But I'm trying to be less like most people. Trying to be more like myself, whoever that is. They talked for 3 hours, lost track of time completely until Daniel's phone rang. Mrs. Patterson checking on Emma pickup. I have to go get my daughter. Isabella nodded. Of course. Thank you for coming, for not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. That's what friends do. At the door, Isabella caught his arm. Daniel, would it be okay if I came to Emma's next soccer game? I know I don't deserve to just slide back into your lives, but I'd like to try, to show up, to be present instead of hiding. She'd love that. Fair warning, her team's not great. Lots of losing, lots of drama about unfair refs. Sounds perfect. Daniel smiled. Saturday, 10 a.m. Same park as before. I'll be there. Saturday came cold and clear. Emma was nervous, not about the game, but about whether Isabella would actually show. She kept scanning the bleachers, looking for familiar faces. What if she doesn't come? Emma whispered. Then she doesn't come, and we'll be okay. But what if she does? Then she does, and we'll be okay. Either way, Em, we're okay. 10 minutes before game time, Isabella appeared. Not in expensive suits or designer clothes, jeans, a warm jacket, a scarf that looked hand-knitted. She climbed the bleachers, spotted them, waved tentatively. Emma's face lit up. She came! She came. Isabella sat beside them, slightly out of breath. Sorry I'm late. I couldn't figure out parking, and then I walked the wrong direction, and she stopped, smiled. I made it. That's what matters. You made it, Emma agreed, then launched herself at Isabella for a hug. I missed you. I missed you too, so much. Isabella hugged her back, fierce and genuine. I'm sorry I disappeared. I was dealing with some stuff and I handled it badly. That's okay. Dad says everyone handles stuff badly sometimes. It's part of being human. Your dad's very wise. He has his moments, Emma said seriously. Then, want to know a secret? We're probably going to lose. We've lost every game this season, but we're really good at having fun while losing. That sounds like the best kind of team. Emma's team did lose, 4-1, but they played hard and laughed harder. Isabella cheered like her life depended on it, embarrassingly loud and completely unself-conscious. Emma beamed every time she heard Isabella's voice above the crowd. After the game, they got ice cream despite the cold, sat at a picnic table while Emma recounted every moment of the game in exhaustive detail. And then Tyler fell over his own feet. Tyler's the worst, but also kind of funny, and the ball just rolled away and their team scored and coach just put his head in his hands, but we were all laughing because it was so ridiculous. Isabella listened like every word mattered, asked questions, laughed at the right moments, was fully, completely present. Later, after they dropped Emma at a friend's birthday party, Daniel and Isabella walked through the park. November had stripped most trees bare, but something about the starkness felt honest, real. "Thank you for letting me come today," Isabella said. "Thank you for showing up." It felt good, being there, being part of something simple and normal. No agenda, no performance, just watching a game and eating ice cream. That's most of life, actually. Simple moments strung together. I'm starting to realize that. All those years chasing success and importance, and what actually matters is sitting on cold bleachers cheering for a losing soccer team. Not quite that simple, but close. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Isabella said, "I have a therapist appointment Monday. She wants to talk about rebuilding my identity outside of work and marriage, about figuring out who I am as just Isabella, not CEO Isabella, or widow Isabella, or any other label." That sounds hard. Terrifying, but necessary, I think. I can't keep defining myself by external things. At some point, I have to figure out who I am at my core. "And who do you think that is?" Isabella considered. "Someone who loves making art, even though it's terrible. Someone who values genuine connection over professional networking. Someone who's learning that strength looks like asking for help instead of suffering alone." She glanced at him. "Someone who's incredibly grateful for stubborn friends who refuse to give up on her even when she gives up on herself." That's a pretty good start. "Yeah, I think so too." They reached a bench overlooking the river, sat down, watching November light turn the water gray and gold. "Can I tell you something?" Isabella asked. "Always." "I don't know what happens next. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, what my purpose is, where I fit. Everything's uncertain and scary, and I don't have a plan for the first time in 15 years. Okay, but for the first time in months, I'm not terrified of the uncertainty. I'm not scrambling to fill the void with work or obligations or performance. I'm just sitting with it, letting myself not know. And it's uncomfortable, but it's also kind of freeing. That's growth, is it? Or am I just avoiding responsibility? You can't avoid responsibility to yourself. And right now, your responsibility is healing, figuring out who you are, building a life that feels real instead of performed. That's not avoiding anything. That's doing the hardest work there is. Isabella leaned her head on his shoulder. "How did you get so wise about this stuff?" "Trial and error. Mostly error. But I learned that you can't rush healing, can't force it or schedule it or manage it like a project. You just have to do the next right thing and trust that eventually enough next right things add up to being okay." What's the next right thing for me? Whatever feels honest. Whatever brings you closer to yourself instead of further away. Whatever makes you feel like you instead of like whoever you think you're supposed to be. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I think I want to take an art class. A real one, with other people. Not just painting alone in my apartment at 3 a.m. That sounds good? And I think I want to volunteer somewhere. Do something that matters but doesn't come with the pressure of running a company. Just show up and be useful." Also good. "And I think I want to keep showing up for Emma's soccer games, even though they always lose. Maybe especially because they always lose. Emma would love that. And I want to keep having terrible coffee with you, and honest conversations, and all the messy, complicated human parts of friendship that I've been avoiding for years." Daniel smiled. "I can do terrible coffee." They sat together as the afternoon faded into evening, as the park slowly emptied of weekend visitors, as the city began its transition from day to night. And for the first time in a long time, neither of them was running from anything. Not grief, not fear, not uncertainty, just sitting with what was, letting it be enough. Later that week, Isabella sent a text. Signed up for an art class. First session tonight. Absolutely terrified. Daniel replied, "You'll be great. Remember, terrible art is still art. Words to live by." An hour later. Update. I'm the worst one here. Everyone else has actual talent. I painted what was supposed to be a bowl of fruit, and the instructor asked if it was abstract expressionism. Was it? No. It was just bad fruit. Daniel laughed out loud, sitting at his kitchen table while Emma did homework. What's funny? She asked. Isabella's taking an art class. She's terrible at it. That's great. Being terrible at things is how you get better. Emma returned to her math worksheet. Is she coming to my game Saturday? I think so. Good. We need more people who cheer really loud. It makes losing more fun. Saturday came. Emma's team lost again, this time 5-2. Isabella cheered herself hoarse. Afterward, they all got pizza. Daniel, Emma, Isabella, and a few other families from the team. Simple, chaotic, normal. Isabella fit in seamlessly, talking to other parents about nothing important, helping the kids settle an argument about whether pepperoni or cheese pizza was superior, laughing when someone spilled soda across the table. Walking back to the car, Emma between them holding both their hands, Isabella said quietly, "This is what I needed. Not grand gestures or dramatic changes, just this. Being part of something normal and good." Glad you're here, Daniel said. Me too. The weeks that followed developed their own rhythm. Not every day, not even every week, but regularly. Isabella showed up to games. Came over for dinner sometimes, usually bringing takeout because she still couldn't cook. Sent updates about her art class and therapy and the volunteer work she'd started at a youth center. She was learning to be herself. Messy, imperfect, genuine. Some days were good, some days were hard, but she was showing up for all of them, not just the easy ones. One evening in December, sitting on Daniel's small balcony despite the cold, wrapped in blankets and drinking hot chocolate, Isabella said, "I've been thinking about what you said, about how loneliness is being surrounded by people who refuse to see you." Yeah, you saw me. That first night, when everyone else walked away, you saw me breaking and you stayed. And every time since, when I've wanted to run or hide or build walls, you've just quietly refused to let me disappear. She turned to look at him. That changed everything for me. Not because you fixed me, I had to do that work myself, but because you reminded me I was worth fixing, worth showing up for, worth caring about even at my messiest. You were always worth it. You just couldn't see it. No, but I'm starting to now. And that's because you didn't give up, even when I gave you every reason to. Daniel thought about that first night, about Isabella crying in an empty conference room, mascara ruined, walls crumbling, about the choice he'd made, to approach instead of avoid, to stay instead of leave, to see her as human instead of untouchable. I think we saved each other, he said finally. You think I helped you. But watching you do the hard work of healing, of choosing honesty over performance, of building a real life instead of a perfect one, that reminded me what courage actually looks like. Reminded me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking and choosing to rebuild anyway. So we're both disasters helping each other be slightly less disastrous? Something like that. Isabella smiled. I can live with that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Somewhere below, people were living their lives, struggling and celebrating and just existing in all the complicated, beautiful, messy ways humans did. And here, on a small balcony in a modest apartment, two people who'd found each other at their lowest were learning what it meant to be found. Not fixed, not rescued, just seen, accepted, valued for exactly who they were, imperfections and all. Emma appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her own blanket. Are you guys having deep talks without me? Little bit, Daniel admitted. That's not fair. I have deep thoughts too. Come share them then. Emma squeezed between them. I was thinking about how sometimes the best things happen because of bad things. Like how Isabella wouldn't be our friend if her husband hadn't died. And that's really sad, but also kind of beautiful, because good things can come from sad things, and that doesn't make the sad things less sad, but it also means sad things aren't the end of everything. Daniel and Isabella exchanged glances. That's very deep, Em, Daniel said. I know, I think about stuff a lot. She looked at Isabella. Are you still sad about your husband? Yeah, I am. But it's different now. The sadness doesn't swallow everything else. There's room for other things too. Happiness, friendship, hope. The sadness is still there, but it's not all there is. That's good, because you seem happier now than when we first met. You smile more. Real smiles, not the fake ones grown-ups do. You're very perceptive. Everyone keeps saying that, but I just pay attention. They stayed on the balcony until Emma started shivering despite the blankets. Inside, Daniel made more hot chocolate. Emma showed Isabella her latest school project, a diorama about ecosystems that looked like a shoebox full of random nature items, but was apparently very scientifically accurate. Later, after Emma was in bed, Isabella stood at the door preparing to leave. Thank you for tonight, for all of this, for being patient while I figured myself out. You're still figuring yourself out. That doesn't stop. No, but at least now I'm doing it honestly instead of hiding behind whatever version I think people want to see. That's all anyone can ask, honesty and effort. Isabella hugged him, quick but genuine. See you Saturday? Wouldn't miss it. After she left, Daniel cleaned up the hot chocolate mugs, turned off lights, checked on Emma one last time. His daughter slept peacefully, one arm around Mr. Rabbit, face relaxed in the way only sleeping children managed. His phone buzzed. Isabella, home safe. Thank you for being you, for teaching me that friendship doesn't require perfection, just presence. For showing me that the strongest thing we can do is let someone in. Daniel smiled, typed back. Thank you for letting me in. Even when it was scary, even when it was hard. That took real courage. We make a good team, disasters united. Best kind of team. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Isabella. He set the phone down and looked around his small apartment. Nothing had changed, really. Same modest space, same simple life, same daily routines. But something felt different, fuller, like there was more room for joy now, more space for connection. He'd learned something important through all of this, that showing up mattered, that kindness was never wasted, that seeing people, really seeing them, in their mess and their struggle and their humanity, was one of the most powerful things we could do for each other. Isabella had needed someone to stay when she was falling apart, but he'd needed that too, even if he hadn't realized it. Needed to remember that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that asking for help wasn't failure, that letting people in despite the risk of hurt was the only way to actually live instead of just survive. They'd saved each other. Not in some grand, dramatic way, but in small moments. Coffee and conversations and showing up to soccer games. In honesty instead of performance. In accepting imperfection instead of demanding polish. And maybe that was what strength really looked like. Not never falling, not having all the answers, not being perfect or untouchable or completely in control. Just being human, together, messy and uncertain and trying anyway. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything.